Hello and welcome to the Blackdog number 274.
Yeehaw!
Hello, senor.
I'm Lee.
I'm Darren.
I'm Jim.
And I'm Elton.
And this week we are continuing our Western month, which came out of nowhere, to be honest. It was just randomly just slapped together and it was like, oh, we got 4 Westerns in a row. Now it's Western month. We'll be continuing with Good, the Bad, the Ugly, and we'll still have some chat, and then we'll have a shitty superhero and a profanasaurus.
Yes, indeed.
And, that'll be it. And we'll be off on our way, off into the sunset, while one of us hangs off a tree. But
Please let it be Darren.
Yeah.
Oh, Elton.
Elton likes punctuality.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
He does. Anyway, moving on before it turns into a gunfight with all 4 of us standing in a circle.
Nearly 6 fucking years I've been doing this podcast, I'll have you fucking know. Turned up on time all that time.
Did you?
You bloody. Fucking complain about me, turn up, you cheeky bastard.
Is there a cloud above you?
Shouting. He's shouting at it.
One day that cloud's going to shout back.
Oh dear, we're all in a good mood today. I can just tell. Right, well, before it turns into a proper fist fight across the internet with all sorts of slanging match going on, which will be undoubtedly quite entertaining, but right now I just want to do this thing and go to bed. Let's get started with how everyone's week was, and we'll start with Bolshy Elton. Bolshy Elton, how are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. What's happened this week? I just got off the phone to my dad, who said that he was rushed up to A&E yesterday.
Oh, shit.
So, high potassium, apparently. Drinking too much juice and such.
He hasn't been following your sort of routine with the bananas, has he?
I think he's been eating too much fruit.
Oh, wow.
And I
Bad
think
for you. I've always said this. Fruit, vegetables, bad for you.
See?
Proof, at last.
I think it's a case of too much fruit and not enough veg. Not a balance with it. But high potassium, he's on more pills. Christ. And he's at home now, so that's good. So fingers crossed for him for that.
Oh, that's good.
I also got to see The Jungle Book.
Okay. And
I'm not impressed with it one bit.
Oh, okay.
Did not like it. I did not like a single frame of it.
No. Ooh. Well, you're not alone, because Lisa on the Blackdog Facebook group came up and basically said exactly the same thing and wanted to know if she had something wrong with her, but clearly not.
No, I didn't like anything about it. Had no redeeming qualities whatsoever.
No?
No, I think possibly I loved the animation far too much. I've never read the book, so I don't know how close this is to the book or how close the animation is to the book, but I will always fall back to the old animation.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things, if it's formed in your childhood, that's always going to carry more weight than, I don't know, just anything new, I guess.
It will, but I think I could appreciate it for trying something. But it just doesn't work for me at all. And I think it's something to do with dogs and moving lips as they talk. That's just weird. That's just one step beyond Uncanny Valley.
Is that right?
Talking dogs. That's
Spooky Pet Shop. She's just next door over the road.
So dog lips is your problem, is what you're basically saying.
No, that's not just the problem.
Now
no.
there's a quote for the poster. Dog lips, Elton McManus.
Oh dear.
Yeah, there you go.
Actually, I think they did a live-action version years ago. It might have been a TV production. But I remember seeing a live-action version and not being impressed for pretty much the same reasons as kind of...
Yeah,
this doesn't work when it's not singing bears.
I think it was Jason Lee in the lead role of Mowgli.
That's right, yes. Yes,
Jason,
that was the one, yeah.
Jason Viewerskew Lee.
No, Jason Lee as in, Bruce Lee, the guy who played Bruce Lee in the Bruce Lee story.
Oh, right, okay.
Like Jason Lee. Him.
Okay, fair enough. Sorry, I was like going, hold on, what's Brody from
That would be a
Mallrats?
very different Bro Jungle Book.
Wow, that's some kind of film, isn't it? Oh, cool. Anyway, go on, carry on, Elton.
No, that's around about it. That's about as exciting as it gets for me.
Okay, fair enough. Well, okay, well then we'll move on to you, Jim. How's it going?
I've had a fairly quietish week. Yes, it's got some good weather back. Done things in the garden, boring grown-up things, really.
Okay.
But I mean, a chap did hit me up on my list and saying, "I'm just getting rid of some books that used to be my dad's. He's got a big stack of occult books. Do you want them?" I said, "Yes, please."
Yep. Nice.
Which seems to happen on a regular basis now. People send me weird books they find, which of course is brilliant. So,
Nice.
I'm just hoping to get some time to have a good look through them at the weekend. So I'm very pleased with it, this arrangement. This works well for me.
Yeah, you can't go wrong.
No, not at all. Another chap got in touch. He was saying, it's a guy I'm familiar with who's done some readings, quite a few readings, like online on LibriVox of Lovecraft stuff, and he's just done a properly produced sort of CD of H.P. Lovecraft's Fungi from Yuggoth, and he hit me up saying, "Would you like a copy?" As I'm a huge fan of your work. Said, "Yes, you may send me a CD, please. That sounds lovely." So it's been freebies in the post.
Nice.
It's like, I like this. This is a good week.
Yeah.
This is much better than the usual crap.
Well,
And while I'm on, if I might be impinging on Darren's territory here, but as we had a pop-up, was it a Vodafone the other week?
yeah, that was me.
Capital One.
Okay.
Anyone from works for Capital One's listening, can you maybe pass this on to management?
Yeah.
Tell them that if they keep sending me and the general public fucking spam junk mail for their shitty cards, and they keep putting it in those brown envelopes, just like what the government sends you things, don't be surprised if someone comes and burns your offices down. Because no one wants to see through the door one of those brown envelopes, because it ain't anything any good. It's either taxman, it's the dole office, or it's the hospital telling you you're going to die. We don't want things in brown envelopes, ever.
Okay.
They ain't especially going to want the thing you're going to send them back in a brown envelope anyway.
Oh,
so.
God, no. I've got a stack of occult grimoires here. I can send you something very nasty.
Well, go for it. Cool. Okay. Well, that's. I don't quite know how to follow up the fear of a brown envelope. It sounds almost like the sort of the remix.
It's a very middle class rap album from Surrey, isn't it?
I was going to say it's the middle class sequel to Fear of a Black Planet. It's Fear of a brown envelope.
Not Public Enemy. It's Asbo Menace.
Yes.
Asbo Menace. Fear of a brown envelope. Oh well, there you go. So that's it. You've been hounded by Capital One. You want them to go fuck off.
Yes, yeah, that'll do me. Yes.
Oh well, there you go. That's your week in a nutshell. Okay. What about you, Dal? How was your week then?
Well, this Friday just gone.
Yeah.
I did go to the pub.
Yeah.
Because it was Mr. Probert's birthday celebrations.
Ah, yes.
Yes, previous to his birthday, of course, which was at time of recording today.
Ah, yes. Happy birthday for today, which is now yesterday by the time you hear it.
And happy birthday to Danny Davis for yesterday.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
which is a day after yesterday, day before yesterday, as you're hearing it now. Yes. Oh, I'll get this temporal mechanics thing down soon enough.
But yeah, that was a good night.
Yeah,
lovely stuff. And let's see, what else did I do this week? More work. Oh, and then on Sunday, I joined this bearded reprobate at the pub.
Oh God, really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. He brought his wonderful kids along, but we had to put up with him.
Oh well, yeah. Miserable dad, combative Jenga.
Indeed. I think we're actually onto a winner with the Jenga. I think we've got a TV show waiting to go there. with all the stuff we invented, like sticky brick.
Jenga
concentration. Fact. Everybody quiet. Ding, 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 ding.
Jenga facts.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah.
That was a good day down the pub there.
That was quite good, actually. Yeah,
it was lots of fun there.
Except for if I may just tweak your nipple of outrage right now.
Go on.
Yeah, I'll just say one thing: profiteroles.
Oh yes. Okay. Play the old man shouts at cloud theme tune.
I'm just going to light the blue touch paper. I'm just going to stand back.
Okay, go on. Play that music. We have a theme tune for this yet?
No, we don't. But I could find something.
Okay, yeah, we'll do some screw you, cloud. There you go.
Hold on. I think I might have it. For you. It might not last very long, but we'll see how it goes.
Go for it.
Yeah. Here we go. Go for it, Dal.
Okay, so this week you can have. You're playing it in the background, brilliant.
Yeah.
So this week when we was down the pub, we had a lovely main meal. And then it came to ordering dessert. Now, on the menu, there were profiteroles.
Yeah.
And you could either have sort of like profiteroles for yourself.
Yeah.
Or you could order, like, a one for you and someone else. And it was slightly cheaper than buying two together.
Yeah.
So we thought, yes, we like the sound of that. Good value for money. We'll get it. So me and Laura ordered the sort of like the double.
Yep.
And I think it was Katie and Lisa had the singles, didn't they? Oh no, you had one.
Yeah, I had a single. You had they all had to share. That's what
I see. Sorry, they had to share, and so did me and Laura. So Lise turned up, and he had two profiteroles in his little glass, right?
And a blob of ice cream.
Blob of ice cream. Thought, oh, hello, we're going to get at least 4 profiteroles. No, we got 3. 3.
There you go.
3 to share between us.
That's it.
What have you got 4 fucking people?
What have you got 2?
It was bad enough having 1.5. That was just torture.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, what if we had 4 people there?
Yeah. Well,
what are you going to do?
No, I don't know. I have no idea. That was the thing. This what you're hearing now, ladies and gentlemen, is a very shortened version of what we had in the pub, which is essentially working out precisely how much it was per profiterole, and the fact that having a £8 bowl of profiteroles, which only adds up to 3 profiteroles and a blob of ice cream.
So what we actually had wasn't saving us money. We just had per profiterole. That's what we had.
Well, actually, what you had was 1.5 profiteroles for the same price as I got 2.
Yeah, there you go.
So there you go.
So screw you, that pub in Blackheath.
The railway in Blackheath.
The railway in Blackheath.
Yeah.
Don't have the profiteroles.
Yeah.
The rest of the food is nice. Do some lovely beers. But the profiteroles...
Fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you, profiteroles. And that is this week's Old Man Shouts at Cloud.
Yeah, there you go. And I've now I've found that theme, and now I know I can play it underneath quite happily. Then this is going to be a regular thing. Hooray!
Hey!
Because it's always a regular thing with you.
Yeah, exactly. Always find something to moan about.
Absolutely. So, anything else, sir, before we move on?
No.
Okay.
Actually.
Well, there you go. Well, my week has been primarily being daddy daycare and working from home because Carol is still in Australia. And so I've become very well acquainted with the art of dishwashing. I've become very, very, very well acquainted with the art of doing the laundry in a way that actually means that the washing goes out of the basket, comes out of the washing machine, goes into the tumble dryer as the other ones come out of the tumble dryer and go upstairs to get packed away.
Whoa, system.
See? Time and management study, mate. That's me. But anyway, that's about as exciting as it got. Well, apart from the Jenga and the pub and everything like that.
Yeah.
But what was slightly interesting, purely for you guys, was that I've been doing this video for work, which is this promotional video. We're doing some pitch to the UK Innovation Council about trying to get money and funding for a new project. And it's all about energy reclamation, reclaiming energy that you didn't even know existed, in your house. So, like, for example, the energy that's in your water tank. Did you know there was energy in there?
No.
Well, exactly. You turn on the tap and it's gravity fed, so that water's just coming down through gravity. So why don't you have a turbine in your little pipes that can reclaim that energy?
There's potential energy there.
Potential energy, exactly. So anyway, I had this script because I had all these engineers write this script, and this script was like 7 pages long. And I've told them, like, no, look, in TV and film, 1 page double spaced is 1 minute. So, you guys got a lot of stuff to put in there, so that's probably going to be 2 minutes. They wrote a script that was like 7 pages long and had like big blocks of dialogues sort of talking about potential energy and, pressure differentials and all this kind of crap that I just don't understand. So I took that script, turned it into a 1-page thing, and we filmed it. And then I had to go and get all loads of graphics. And one thing they really, really wanted, was examples of this thing about like when you flush the toilet, you would the water going away, the grey water going away from the toilet, and the water coming into the system would both be generating little bits of electricity. And in theory, over the course of a day, you would actually generate enough electricity built up in a little storage battery. You could actually power the lights in that room, which is really cool. So, okay, fair enough. How am I going to do this? Well, they gave me a load of pictures, and that's fair enough. And then what I did was I thought, no, sod this. I've actually got to look into this technology, and I will find some video. And what I did was I started Googling up and doing the Google foo, and I found a YouTube page, because I wanted a picture of flushing toilet, and I wanted a power turbine that I could sort of blend together in an edit. And I found a flushing toilet guy, right? And he's got a channel, and I don't know. I just sat there. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. I've got eyes like piss holes in the snow, and I come across this YouTube channel, and this guy is obsessed about toilets. He is so obsessed about toilets. He has about 75 videos of toilets, and not only that, he has them broken down into era. So you have 1950s toilets, 1960s toilets, and then you got like a top 10 of toilets. Then you got power toilets, and then you got toilets which have this, that, and the other. And he has this little demonstration where he shows how powerful the toilet is by firstly flushing some ice down it. Then he does golf balls, and then he doubles down and goes for an entire bag of carrots.
What?
Yeah, he gets a bag of...
Is this a toilet or a waste disposal unit?
No, it's a toilet. It's a toilet, but obviously he's not going to cop a squat every time and flush it and film it. So he's trying to show you...
I'm sure the municipal authorities who deal with the plumbing in his area would much rather he did that.
But to be quite honest...
There is now multiple pipes fucked up with carrots.
and golf balls and a large bowl of really cold water. And I sat there... Literally, I went down an internet rabbit hole, going, "Oh my god, this is just like I can't even put this into words. What am I looking at here?" And it always started the same. It's this guy going, "I bet you are wondering how a toilet worked in the 1950s, 1960s, 1955," and he go through all these different toilets, 10-minute videos every time, and it got to the point where he was actually going to motorway service stations around America to find a particular toilet of a particular manufacturer that was particularly rare. So he would do something like, "Oh, this is the Armitage Shanks 255 Powermaster Bum Flummer," or something like this, and then sort of show you it, and then come in. Then he'd go out to the store in the sort of like service station, buy some ice, buy some golf balls, and buy some carrots, and then try and flush them down to rate how far or how good it was. And I sat there and I watched loads of them. Absolutely loads of them. And on top of that, but the worst bit was not only was there a guy who obsessively films toilets, and a guy at 3 o'clock in the morning who was obsessively watching it, but I noticed that every single video had about 1.5 million views.
What? Wow.
This guy is making, pardon the pun, shit tons of money off of YouTube filming toilets for 10 minutes. How much money do we make off of this? We spend 3 hours on this crap. We could have just gone. We could have just gone to a happy eater and just filmed a bog.
Next meet up, there has to be a video of us just standing around the toilet, flushing it
with a bag of ice, some golf balls, and a bag of carrots.
You don't want it to be a bunch of film CDs going in there.
Well,
like,
yeah, we could do what we did at Danny Graydon's 40th, which is like film me trying to find the worst of his Blu-rays and throwing them on a barbecue. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Danny's got any of those left over. But
probably not.
No, probably not. No, not after I threw his Green Lantern on the barbecue. And his Cowboys versus Aliens. But anyway. Yeah, so that was it. That was my entire week. I have literally been sitting there watching people flush shit down a toilet. It's a good job.
This has to be some sort of scam. He must put a video up there and sit at home with all his family going, play it again, play it again, play it again.
Yeah, he probably pays like 10 quid to a sweatshop in India, and they've all got to go over with their unique IDs and just bash the shit out of it. I mean, I don't know. But that was just the most mind-boggling thing. And like I say, at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's strangely you get strangely obsessed with it. And I like I say, as soon as I find out the channel again, because it was literally I just stumbled over it and it was like, right, that's good enough for me. I'll have that picture. I'll have that video of this toilet. But I just can't imagine someone standing in the motorway service station and people are obviously walking in and out while he's standing in a stall filming a toilet. Doing a narration on it. He's literally standing there going, look at this, you can see that from the underside of the bowl it's got an overhead flush unit which basically pushes the water down, and then this one here has an underside flush unit which brings the water up and creates a negative pressure and drives the waste down through there.
Capturing toilets?
It's something like
channel?
That. Oh God, please let it be capturing toilets. Hold on, Cap.
I mean, I've just found a video called 1960s Cola Staten Toilet Flush.
Oh, hold on. Please, yeah. Oh, God, I think this is it. I think this might be it. There, the American Standard Cadet Toilet Flush HD 2015. See, there he goes. Oh, let's see if I can find, capturing toilets. I mean, let's see if I can get to the channel. If I see the subscription, Toilet Insider, The Secret Life of Toilets. There it is. 2,000 views. Oh God, no! I don't think this is the one, but this is like it because there was far more reviews than this. I found the seedy underbelly of YouTube, checking toilets. Look! He's actually filming inside a toilet.
Lovely.
What did he expect to see?
I don't know, but he's doing some funky editing with a piece of tissue paper going down a toilet in 3 slides. See, it's artistic. This is just great. Yeah, Toilet Insider continues this weekend. Yeah, the 1980s elongated long comfort height Briggs toilet. Then there's the Crane Galaxy toilet flush at a vegan restaurant in slow motion, no less. Yeah. So, yeah. Oh, the Down the Toilet series. I think this might be. I think I might have just been exaggerating the amount of...
Parts of this video series were originally released beginning in 2009.
Oh, right. just in case you were wondering why he's gone back to the same toilet again. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So well, look at capturing toilets on YouTube. I don't think it's this guy because the guy laid it out in playlists of year and era. If this one does the same, then no. See, that's just you got videos for toilet education, Down the Toilet series, and liked videos of toilets, of which he's got 1,806. That's but what you've got there, Jim, is not far off. It's literally it's pretty much exactly the same. Except there's always this guy who got this haunted look on his face going, I bet you wonder how a toilet works. Oh, it's doing it again. It's doing the toilet again. Oh, I'm in the toilet. Anyway. Kind of symbolic for this entire podcast, really, isn't it? It's gone down the shitter pretty quickly. So, yeah.
Who was it hosted by, this video? Mark Commode.
Oh.
Oh, no. Hold on, Jim. Can you... No, dear. No, hold on. Sorry, Jim, what was that again?
Was it hosted by Mark Commode?
No, I've done that. Oh, there you go. Oh, call back. Except he's really, really loud on this recording, so I probably shouldn't do that. It's probably just blown out everyone's ears.
You know, they've started posting more of those puns.
Have they?
Now, yeah. Have you read Richard Tingley's one?
Go for it.
It says, our local ice cream man was found dead in the back of his van, covered in hundreds and thousands. Apparently he topped himself.
No, stop that. Stop. No, back away. Back away from the dad jokes.
There's more.
Yeah, I bet there is. Go on. We'll do one more.
Okay. Let's have a look here. A dentist married a manicurist. Apparently they fought tooth and nail. Stop. Back away from the dad jokes. Come on. Okay. I won't say any more.
Otherwise, we're going to be here forever again.
Yep.
Right. Instead, let's go for something a lot more high quality. Let's go for a shitty superhero. Yay!
Shitty superheroes fly into a wall. Shitty superheroes, they're not cool at all. Great big bunch of losers going nowhere fast, trying to fight bad guys, but falling on their ass. Try to tell them stop, but they don't understand that we suffer. Shitty heroes go away. Yeah.
Hello, right, okay, so shitty superheroes for this week. Let's move on. This one has been supplied by Chief Justice of the Witness for the Defence, Mr. Chris Johnston, and he has sent me this. Emmanuel Ilogato began his career as a real matador who liked easy fights. Skilled in his arts, he still resorted to drugging the bulls before his fights to make it even easier. However, he became cruel toward the bulls, which made people despise him. And during one of his performances, a riot broke out, and a non-drugged bull entered the area and gored him. Manuel, humiliated, disappeared from sight until he emerged in New York using his skills as a matador to rob banks and distract guards. This brought him to the attention of Daredevil, who fought him, but his radar sense was scrambled through the waving of the cape that the matador would use, and he managed to escape. He was, of course, recaptured by Daredevil very shortly after. Yeah, That's it. The Matador possesses that's his name, possesses no actual powers, but is extremely agile and quick, and a highly skilled swordsman, and he has a cape.
So you're saying that Daredevil almost got his arse handed to him by Juan Sheet?
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes. Juan Sheet. Yeah.
One sheet.
Yeah. Yeah. He employs a cape and a sword, which he uses for both offence and defence. Matador has also been known to carry a bullwhip. That's it. That's the entire extent of him.
That's it.
Yeah.
I found him.
Yeah. The Matador would later be offered an assignment by the emissaries of evil. And he ended up working with another similarly sounding shitty superhero, Man-Bull.
Right.
Yeah. Can you imagine what he looks like? So Matador and Man-Bull worked together for a while.
Yes.
Yes. So, here we go. What do we got here?
Is that it?
Is that it? That's it. There he is. Yeah. Daredevil.
So it's just a matador?
He's just a matador. And a matador who doesn't even fight bulls properly.
So he's a shit matador?
He's a shit matador. He's a shattador. He's a shittador. Yeah. He later became a barman. Having drinks.
Of course he did.
No, just end it there. End it there.
Yeah, that's it. He did. Yeah, he worked at the infamous bar with no name, and hung out with fellow bad guys. Matador and Stiltman would come to blows, and Matador threatened Stiltman with his bullwhip, but the bartender told him to leave or behave and take it outside. And Matador kept his cool and walked away when the bartender showed him his Be Cool stick, the BBC stick. What that? Some of this Wikipedia is just gibberish.
Stiltman hit his head on the way out on the door frame.
Yeah, exactly. God dear. So there you go. So that's the shitty superhero for this week, Matador, who is a matador. Right. So if you've got any shitty superheroes that you would like to send in, or people who've just got a job, then send them in to Blackdog at geekplanetonline.com, and we'll put them on here to basically be goggled at and generally kind of what the fucked. So with that all done, Jim, are you ready for a dose of profanasaurus?
I am indeed.
I shall roll the jingle then.
Tuco syndrome. Euphemism. For the insensitive and unsatisfying male lover who adheres to Tuco's philosophy. When you have to shoot, shoot. Don't talk.
Nice. I thought there was going to be a reference to plucking chickens and throwing it in a pot, but
I believe it's also known as giant panda syndrome as well.
Yeah, just God, giant pandas, nature's suicide squad. Jesus. Anyway, no, I won't go into my panda rant. I won't. Anyway, well, thank you very much for that, Jim.
My pleasure as always.
Okie dokie. And I guess we should move on to this week's Rose Tinted Specs, which is, of course, what was it?
The good.
Fire.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. Oh, the jingle. My brain's not working.
There's a favorite film from my childhood. Loved it so much I watched it night and day. I never got tired of seeing the movie, but that was years ago. Well, I still feel the same. Blu-ray keeps on turning. Will my passion keep on burning? Rosie, Rosie, rose-tinted spectacles. Shut it on the Specsavers, you
twat. There you go. So, rose-tinted specs for this week. I forgot about that ending. Yeah. Right, The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Directed by Sergio Leoni. Screenplay by Sergio Leoni. Sergio Donati. Luciano Visconzi. Agent Scarpelli. And Mickey Knox. Starring. Trust me, it's not going to get any better on the pronunciations. Starring Clint Eastwood, Lee Van Cleef, Aldo Griffer? Anyway, Mario Brega and Eli Wallach. Sorry. Music by Ennio Morricone. And, yes, it was released. It's 177 minutes long in its original form. Originally released in Italy first. And it had a budget of 1.2 million. And it was released on the 15th of December, 1966. Anybody want to take a guess how much it made after 1.2 million in 1966 money? Jim.
80 million.
80 million is for Jim. What do you think, Elton?
10.6 million.
Okay, 10.6 million. Darren.
15 million.
You were the closest, sir. It's made $25.1 million. That's unadjusted and not including DVD sales and other stuff. So, after the success of a few dollars more, executives at United Artists approached the film writer Luciano Visconzi. Luciano V, to sign a contract for the rights to the film and the next one. He and producer Alberto Grimaldi and Sergio Leoni had no plans, but with their blessing, Vizzoni pitched. I'm going to keep doing that. Pitched an idea about a film about three rogues who were looking for some treasure at the same time as the American Civil War. The studio agreed, but wanted to know the cost of the next film. At the same time, Grimaldi was trying to broker his own deal, but Vizzoni, whose name I still can't pronounce, his idea was more lucrative. The two men struck an agreement with United Artists for $1 million budget, and the studio advanced $500,000 up front and 50% of the box office takings outside of Italy. The total budget would be $1.2 million in the end. Sergio Leoni built upon the screenwriter's original concept to show the absurdity of war, the civil war of which the characters encounter in my frame of reference is useless, he said. It's stupid, and it does not involve a good cause. An avid history buff, Leoni said, I had read somewhere that 120,000 people died in southern camps, which is Andersonville. I was not ignorant of the fact that there were camps in the north, but you always got to hear about the shameful behaviour of the losers, never mind the winners. The Batterville camp, where the Blondie and Tuco are imprisoned, is based on steel engravings of Andersonville. Many shots of the film were influenced by archival photographs taken by Matthew Brady. As the film took place during the Civil War, it served as a prequel to the other two films in the trilogy which took place after the war. While Leoni developed Vizzoni's idea into a script, the screenwriter recommended the comedy writing team of Al Gore, Agenor Incruli and Furo Scarpelli to work on it, and Leoni and Sergio Donati as well. According to Leoni, I couldn't use a single thing that they'd written. It was the grossest deception of my life. Donati agreed, saying there was the next to nothing of them in the final script. They only wrote the first part, just one line. Vizzoni claimed that he wrote the screenplay in 11 days, but he soon left the project after his relationship with Leoni soured. The three main characters all contained autobiographical elements of Leoni, and in the interview he said that... Oh, God almighty. I'm getting into thousands of names. I shall... Right, anyway. Was it? Angel-wise, there's no spirit. He's a professional in the most banal sense of the term. He's like a robot. This isn't the case with the other two. on a more methodical and careful side of my character, I'd be nearer Blondie, but my most profound sympathy always goes towards Tuco. He can be touching with all that tenderness and wounded humanity. Film director Alex Cox suggests that the cemetery buried gold hunted by the protagonist may have been inspired by rumours around the anti-communist Gallardo terrorists, many of whom hid 138 weapon caches in cemeteries. Eastwood received a percentage based on a salary, and unlike the first two films, he received a straight fee salary. When Lee Van Cleef was again cast for another Dollars film, he joked, "The only reason they brought me back was because they forgot to kill me off in a few dollars more." The film's working title was I Due Magnifici Stracconi, or The Two Magnificent Tramps, and it was changed before the shooting began when Vinsoni thought up The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, which Leoni loved. In the United States, United Art is considering using the original Italian translation, A River of Dollars, or The Man with No Name, but decided on The Good, Bad and the Ugly was better, so there you go. I'm going to skip over a lot of the stuff about the production, because there's a lot of stuff going on about, explosives being rigged up. The whole thing was filmed at Cinecittà Studio in Rome, which I did a lot of work for, and they had a reboot only a couple of years ago, but that's either here or there. And a lot of the stuff was I'm just trying to cut through a lot of this. Basically, Eastwood was not pleased with the script, and he was concerned he might be upstaged by Eli Wallach, and said to Leoni, "In the first film I was alone. In the second there were two. Here there are three. If it goes on this way, in the next one I'll be starring with the American cavalry." Eastwood played hard to get in accepting the role, inflating his earnings up by $250,000 and an actual Ferrari, plus 10% of the profits of any of the film in the United States. Eastwood was again encountering publicist disputes with Ruth Marsh, who urged him to accept the third film in the trilogy, and the William Morris Agency, who were unhappy with Marsh's influence on the actor. Eastwood banished Marsh from having any further influence on his career and was forced to sack her as a business manager. Don't know why that's got any relevance. Anyway, moving on. There is one thing that was interesting in all this stuff. In Eli Wallach's autobiography, he mentioned that there was 3 times in his life that his life was threatened during the filming of this film. The first was where are we? I've just lost it. Great, I'm doing really well today. I'm so tired. Right, the first time Wallach was almost poisoned during the filming when he accidentally drank a bottle of acid from a film technician's kit that was sat next to his soda bottle. And then he said that Leoni was a brilliant director but lax about ensuring safety. For example, in one scene where he's supposed to be hanged after the pistol was fired, the horse underneath him was supposed to bolt and then be stopped by the horse trainer. Unfortunately, the horse was frightened a little too well, and it galloped off, avoided the horse trainer, and ran for about a mile with Wallach still mounted on the back with his hands tied behind his back. The third and the thing was Leoni filmed it, the whole thing, when he goes riding off into the distance. The third time Wallach's life was threatened was during the scene when he and Mario Brega, who were chained together, jump off the moving train. The jumping part went as planned, but Wallach's life was endangered when his character attempts to sever the chain by putting the now dead henchman underneath the train. Tuco places the body on the railway road and waits for the train to roll over the chain. Wallach, though, and presumably the entire film crew, were not aware that the train actually had heavy iron steps that jutted out 1 extra foot outside of the car. If Wallach stood up or from his prone position at the wrong time, those jutted steps would have actually decapitated him. He realised this while they were filming. So that was always handy.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah. The international cast was employed. Actors performed in their native languages. Eastwood, Van Cleef and Wallach spoke in English and were dubbed into Italian during the debut in Rome. And for the American version, the lead actors' voices were used, but the supporting cast members were dubbed into English. The result is a noticeably bad synchronization of voices. However, none of the dialogue was ever completely in sync because rarely Leoni shot his scenes with synchronized sound. And various reasons have been cited for this. Leoni often liked to play Morricone's music over the scene, possibly shout things to the actors and get them in the mood. Leoni cared more for the visuals than the dialogue, and his English was limited at best. Given the technical limitations and time, it would have been difficult to record the sound cleanly, and so it was all pre-recorded afterwards. So it was all out of time and out of sync and everything.
There is another reason as well, is because nobody on set would shut up.
Yeah.
That's it. There was like people shouting at one another and God knows what else, apparently.
Yeah. By the end of the filming, Clint Eastwood had finally had enough of Leoni's perfectionist directorial traits. Leoni would often forcefully insist on shooting scenes from many different takes and many different angles, paying attention to the most minute of details, which would often exhaust the actors. Leoni, a glutton, was also the source of much amusement for his excesses, and Eastwood would find a way to deal with the stress of being directed by him by making jokes about him and nickname him Yosemite Sam through his bad temperament. Eastwood was never directed by Leoni again, later turning down a role as harmonica in Once Upon a Time in the West, which we will get to in 2 weeks' time, which Leoni had personally flown out to Los Angeles to give him the script for. The role eventually went to Charles Bronson. And that's about it, really. I'm not gonna do themes and cinematography. The critical reception upon its release, Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, was really heavily criticised for its depiction of violence. And Leoni explained that the killings are exaggerated because he wanted to make a tongue-in-cheek satire of the run-of-the-mill Western. But the critical opinion was even worse because at the time people looked down on spaghetti westerns. In a negative review, the New York Times critic Renata Alder said that the film was the most expensive, pious and repellent movie in the history of that particular genre. Charles Champlin of the LA Times wrote that the temptation here it proved irresistible to call this film The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, now changing it to The Good, the Bad, the Dull and the Interminable, because it is. But despite the initial reception, critics today have given it positive feedback. It's listed in Time's 100 Greatest Movies of the Last Century. It has a 97% aggregate on Rotten Tomatoes. And The Good, the Bad and the Ugly is described as European cinema's best representation of the Western film genre. Quentin Tarantino called it the best directed film of all time, and it was reflected in his votes for 2002 and 2012 Sight and Sound magazine poll. Empire also gave the film a masterpiece, their masterpiece collection of one of the 500 greatest films of all time, and it voted in number 25. And I shall leave it there. Right. So, has everyone seen this film before?
No.
I have many years ago.
Okay, well, if you haven't, then Elton, I suggest maybe you go first then.
Okay.
Okay, sir. So what did you think of this film?
Right. First off, watching this movie and reading some little bits about it, I now understand the term spaghetti western.
Right.
Never got that. Never, because I'm not into westerns and never really sat down and watched westerns. Mm-hmm. I've heard that name battered around quite a bit, but never really understood it.
Okay.
And now I do. It's more Italian money filmed in Spain. Am I on the right tracks with that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Italian movies. Italian filmed movies with American money, essentially.
Yeah. Never knew that.
Cool.
Had my eyes open for that.
Well, that's good.
Right. Watching this time round. First off. Oh, where do I start? Right. The first act.
Yeah.
It's a little slow.
Okay.
A little too slow. It carries on a little too far. The bit in the desert is a little too long.
Right.
But in the second act, it picks up. It's more of a... It's a good film because you get a Western, but then it's also a war movie as well.
Right.
I'm finding it really hard to put it down in words. I fucking loved it, man. I thought it was fucking awesome.
Yeah?
Yeah. I thought it was...
I was going to say...
Have you found High Plains Drifter slow and boring? I was thinking, he's going to fucking hate this.
No, this was wicked. This was... I was really pleasantly surprised. has anyone else looked as cool as Clint Eastwood in a poncho standing in a desert? I grant you, no one has ever looked that cool. He's the man.
Yeah,
he really is.
Yeah.
Were there any? I like the way that the good is not always good, and the bad is not always bad, and the ugly is the in between of the two.
Yeah,
I thought that was very clever because there are times where you're looking at Blondie and you're thinking, you're not that nice. You're a bit of an arse. You're dragging your mate out into the middle of the desert and then just letting him rot in the sun. And then at the same token, he's giving a cigar, last puff on a cigar to some wounded soldier.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, man, stop it. Stop tugging on my heartstrings with that.
Tuco's not exactly a decent character. He's a rapist and a child molester.
Oh, is he? I missed that.
If you look at the second time when he's being hung, they're reading out his crimes. They say, I think he said something about he forced himself upon a woman, and then they say he forced himself upon a black miner.
Yeah.
And it's like, right, okay, fine. You can burn in hell.
I was going to say, is it a black miner as in child, or is it a black miner as in a miner?
I don't think it's one of those. I don't think it's somebody who works underground, Lee.
Okay, I didn't know. I just thought I'd
covered
ask.
in soot.
No.
Sorry, best to ask. You never know. Sorry, carry on.
Right, I missed that too. I think there's a couple of lines. It is a bloody long film. I'll grant you that. That's where I said the first act was a bit too long, because I was watching it. I was really enjoying it. The desert was going on a little bit too much. And then you got the line of, I know where all this money is buried. And you think, okay, I hit the button on the PlayStation to find out how far I was in. I was in 1 hour and 10 minutes in, and it's 2 hours 50. I'm like, what? Hang on a minute. I wasn't told that.
Yeah.
But once that part had finished, I was totally invested in it. I thought it was utterly brilliant. The bit with them jumping off the train and trying to cut the chains, and you saw that them doorsteps coming around very, very quickly. You thought, don't lift your head. Don't you dare lift your head. Otherwise, we got another Twilight Zone film on our hands, haven't we?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's lovely somber moments where you got the captain when he's injured, and it's just nice. It's nicely toned. Nicely toned. But then you also got the excitement of blowing the bridge up, and from what I've read, they had to blow it up twice because they weren't rolling the first time round. Yes,
that's right. I mean, that was one of the things in the wiki that I sort of skipped over, because there's a lot of it about like how they were a little over enthusiastic and blew it up first, and then they went, oh shit, and then they had to build it again with a load of sappers.
Yeah. The scenery as well. The scene where they're running through the graves, and you're just thinking, wow, look at all them graves. Fucking hell. It's just awesome, man. Yeah. I totally enjoyed it.
Yeah.
What else have I got written down? I can't remember what else. I think I better go on the acid flashbacks.
Okay. Okay, well, that's fair enough, because I think we are going to have that kind of thing of just acid flashbacking it as we go. But, okay, well, then over to you then, Jim. What about you? What did you think of it, sir?
So I've not seen this for a good few years. And it was just an absolute joy to come back to. Especially on a big telly now, in high def.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of, oh yes, this is the business.
Yeah.
Just from those opening shots of that ghost town. I mean, I think kind of I had pretty much a lot of the feelings I had when I first watched it. It was kind of, it really brings home to you kind of an idea of what the West was really like.
Yeah.
And I think one of the great things about it is it's a fairly simple story, but told epically.
Yeah.
And it's really just so cleverly done. there's a few things that kind of just struck me as kind of from the start, the opening scenes where you kind of it's taking you into the world. And it's just like some of those shots where Lee Van Cleef is silhouetted in the doorway and you've got like concentric arches in the building.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, oh, that's a good shot.
Yeah.
But it's that whole feeling. It is like taking you into another world. And I thought it put me in mind of the opening scenes of Star Wars in Tatooine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it's kind of all the way through. I just seeing these little things where you go, hang on. I can see where this influenced an awful lot of people.
Yeah.
It's like with the bridge scene and they get into the whole war business. You suddenly go, I'm seeing strange parallels with Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
And, the craziness of war and there's just so many just brilliant sort of touches where kind of Leoni's one of those directors that a lot of people can say, oh, he's just a stylist. Because like Hitchcock, his technique is completely up there on the screen.
Yeah.
But I think a testament to the mastery of his storytelling is that you have this whole plot about the gold buried in the cemetery. And yet it's only when Tuco runs up the cemetery that suddenly everyone, including Tuco, has been thinking it's just going to be, a handful of graves by a battered old church in a shit-ass, no-horse town.
Yeah.
And you suddenly get this huge expanse of this huge kind of Flanders Fields sort of style cemetery with a kind of, yes, in the middle there's a few old graves. And then because of the war, it's just spread out and out, these endless fields of makeshift wooden crosses. And that's just that sequence where he's running round and the background just goes into this kaleidoscopic blur. And yet he's still perfectly in shot as he's just galloping around going, oh, shit in hell, how am I going to find it?
Yeah.
And it's fact you're completely there and you've thought the same as the characters and thought, that's good storytelling. You really realise at that point how far you're into the character's sort of journey.
Yeah.
I think it's just full of wonderful touches, and the fact it's got such a mix of kind of this melancholy, this action, and humour as well. And as Elton say, the way kind of the three characters kind of shift and overlap, and your sympathies kind of change, and as the film goes on, it's just so masterfully done. It's really wonderful, and I do like the fact that you have the whole war section in it because when I first watched it, it's kind of. And watching it now, I realise why it had such a big impression on me and why it kind of unlocked the Western as a genre.
Yeah.
Was because it's the American Civil War. Right, I know when this is set now.
Yeah.
Whereas so many Westerns I'd seen on the TV, all the rote kind of stuff from the 50s and the 60s that was all, clean American guys. It was set in kind of, to use a European parallel, ye olden days when there was knights and stuff. You know what I mean? It's a Neverland historical period that you get at Renaissance fairs and, it doesn't relate to anything. Whereas this American Civil War, I've got a handle on when all this is happening and suddenly it just adds those layers to it that it becomes, it's not just cowboys and Indians, it's history, it's a story, it's giving you
a bit of context.
A context, but also, it's really giving you the feel and the smell almost coming off the screen of the hot, dusty desert lands and, a place where it was a frontier anyway, but now in the Civil War, it's just gone, it's completely lawless. And
it really embeds itself into that time and it gives it a huge gravitas to
definitely
what you're actually watching.
Yeah.
I love that kind of out of the frying pan into the fire moment where they've escaped the prison camp and they see soldiers on the road and he's like, hey, comrades! And then the officer just casually dusts his jacket. He's like, oh, shit, they're the other side.
Yeah.
That's so brilliantly played.
Oh, God. Yeah. God is smiling down on us. Yeah, he smiles. No, he smiles down on the Confederacy. He's also smiling at idiots.
Oh, it's such a wonderful, wonderful film. I'm surprised. I'm surprised and kind of not surprised that it had got such a rough reception. Because I remember always talking to my dad about spaghetti westerns, and A couple of friends of mine, dads, who always used to sort of hover around when we'd hired out videos.
Yeah.
And they all go, those sort of guys, that generation, they're all sort of, Sergio Leoni, he's the man.
Yeah.
And, for them, it was kind of like, here was a Westerns where it was dirty and, people got blown away and you saw blood splats and, it was a proper bullet in the guts. And, it was just an antidote to all that, clean cut sort of Roy Rogers bullshit.
Yeah.
And, it was a huge, big thing for, the 60s audiences seeing it. And it's interesting coming back to this film after High Plains Drifter, because, this is one of the ones that really kind of, had that massive impact. Even though the critics hated it, people loved it because it was just giving them kind of what they got from other spaghetti westerns, but then just, taking it to epic levels. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting because High Plains Drifter tries to break away from it, and it's like, well, actually, no. This is a better kind of path to go down with the westerns, but I guess by that point, how many other spaghetti westerns had been out is sort of like flooding the market.
Well, there was an awful lot of them. I remember in the early 80s when the first video shops opened up, there was racks and racks of films with kind of dollars or fistful.
Yeah.
Or the so-and-so, and the so-and-so sort of in the title.
There was it the Trinity movies? Those ones.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, they call me Trinity. They still call me Trinity. I think there was a third one as well.
Are you calling my pint Trinity?
Yeah, you're looking at me cross-eyed, Trinity. Yeah, Did you spill my pint? Yeah,
I liked you in The Matrix as Trinity.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but I guess the thing is if a series of films like the Dollars movies are so prevalent, and you get all those knockoffs as well that are sort of like straight to video sort of rip-offs and grabbing all the old Spanish, Italian sort of knockoffs. I can imagine that from that suddenly, some Eastwood would have tried to get as far away from that as possible with something like High Plains Drifter. So it does kind of make a bit of sense. They would try and break away from that. Sorry, just ignore me. I'm just waffling.
Yeah, that's a good point. So kind of, I think in High Plains, East was very much trying to play against the type,
yeah.
But still, he was still drawing on heavily on what Leoni had done, but he was trying to put a different spin on it. Because the difference between the two, this is I think High Plains Drifter is. I don't know. It's quite an introspective kind of western. Something I think Eastwood would do better later in The Outlaw Josie Wales and The Beguiled.
Yes.
But he was really he didn't just want to take that kind of realism you had in the spaghetti western that was based on the actual history, but he wanted to kind of remove the poetry that Leoni brings to it, because you've got the dirt and the grime, but you've got this artful sweep. You know what I mean? Everything looks kind of like, every shot looks like a painting. And indeed, all the way through I watched this, I saw so many shots where I go, I've seen that pose on a poster, and that one, and I've seen that on a book cover, and you know what I mean? It's just masterful stuff. It's was still a wonderful, wonderful film.
Awesome. Okay. Wicked. Well, what about you then, Mr. Barnard?
Yeah. Okay. So, my memory's a bit patchy on this film because I saw it so many thousands of years ago. The thing that I always remember about this is Tuco's head hitting the money at the end of the film. That's the one image that I remember from this film.
Okay.
So it was like interesting to see where it would fit into the rest of it, whether it was at the end of this or whether I was misthinking of the film and it was like, from a fistful of dollars or something like that. So going back into it, I didn't realise how long this film was going to be. 2 hours and 58 minutes. Jesus H. Christ. And I've got to say, I think you probably could have done this in 2 hours had you not waited for somebody to come all the way from another country, walk across the desert and finally get to where he needed to be. Because that opening shot is ridiculously long.
Right, okay. Fair enough.
that bit where I think it was Lee Van Cleef, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, coming across the desert like that.
Yeah.
And the opening part as well, I think that might have been a bit too extended. It's like, I realise you've got to build tension, but it's kind of like you can get to a point where it's like, and, you know, skip to the end.
Okay.
Get there.
Yep.
So, yeah, to me, some of that stuff seemed a bit too long.
Right.
You know? So, yeah. I mean, it's one of the few complaints I've got about the film.
Okay.
Is that.
Yeah.
Let's see now. Yeah, the whole... I've now, after watching The High Plains Drifter, it's kind of like, okay, which of the good guys is going to be the dodgy one?
Mm.
And it's Tuco, of course.
Right.
And it's like, up until that point, it's like, I'm thinking, oh, he's robbed a few people, maybe, you know, he's been in a few gun battles, and then they read out the list of crimes, and you find out what he's been doing. It's like, I can't like you now.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
That's it. It's like, I'm all with Clint Eastwood when he leaves him out in the desert and stuff. It's like, yeah, fine.
The one thing I would say, and I'm not defending him, but it's kind of the actions on screen of that character do not seem to match the sort of person you're expecting from the list of things, you know, read out. And I'm not trying to sort of justify it at all, but the one thing I kind of got was actually that he wasn't as bad as all that, but he was playing it up for the whole scam of getting the money.
But they don't actually deny it either. There's no like saying
no. I'm not saying. I would totally get you, but I'm just saying that while I'm not going to sit there and say he was innocent or all this sort of thing, what I am going to say is that for me that didn't do anything to my opinion of him, because even though it should have done, but the actions on screen certainly didn't jibe with that character for me. I just sort of thought, well, actually, he's not that person. He doesn't act like that person. He's certainly not. You know, if he was that person that had all the rules read out about him, he would have shot that guy with the guns when he stole the guns. You know, he would have killed. You know, he would have killed half the people that he ran into. You know.
Yeah, but then we had High Plains Drifter last week, where Clint Eastwood was quite happy to drag a woman into a barn, but he was, you know, a bit hurt when he gave those blankets and the sweets to the kids.
Yeah, but there's a difference between seeing him perform some horrific act and then.
So this goes back to your point about the whole thing of you need to see it on screen to.
You almost need to not only just see it, but also need to understand whether or not it's actually true. I mean, that's the thing. If
I remember rightly, there's two scenes where you get them reading the rap sheet and he's going to be hung, and actually the charges aren't the same.
No, that's what I was going to say. It doesn't. I mean, again, you know, maybe I'm wrong, but you know, what the impression I get is that he's just a guy who's just getting he's just building up charges, and almost something like Unforgiven, where it's kind of like it's something that's built up around him rather than something he's actually done. And, you know, the whole thing was, you know, and then even Eastwood actually brings it up later on. He says, no matter what you do, no matter what they say, you're never going to get over $3,000.
As if to add crimes, so to justify the hanging of that person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that scene where he's in the gun shop, though, he does act like a total arse.
He does.
And you can imagine him doing despicable things once he's drunk, because he does act totally different from any other scene that he's in.
But he is also, I mean, again, you know, at the risk of sounding like I'm trying to stand up for someone when I shouldn't be, what he does always seems to be driven just by instinct at the time, and he then kind of ends up either regretting it or kind of, I don't know, he doesn't seem to be outwardly malicious unless people sort of cross him and it all goes wrong. But as far as I can tell, he's a robber, he's a bandit, but there's never any impression that he's some kind of mad rapist pervert sort of thing. He's just, there's nothing about that, because otherwise, if that were true, or if that were something that we had to focus on, then there were plenty of times when he was going through towns and what have you, where they could have easily made that a thing. They could have made that sort of like something to sort of play your sympathies off, or reduce your sympathy, or do something with it. I
don't know so much.
Well,
the only time he was really sort of like loose within some sort of town was when they were in the army. When they were in the what's it? The was it the monk's place?
No. What about with the when he goes in with his 4 mates to get Blondie, and he's in that hotel, and he threatens that guy, and he doesn't do, and does he do anything to the lady after she's given him absolutely shit for like 5 minutes while he's got his gun at the other guy's face, saying, "Where is he? What room?" Doesn't do anything. He just kind of just ignores her. He just kind of drives on towards his goal, and he's if he was as malicious and violent and generally despicable as the first set of charges, would lay it out, then he would have taken against her quite a lot. And when you compare it against what it's not even like it's a directorial choice to sort of like not put violence on the screen, because the way Angel Eyes knocks that woman around at the beginning, if that charge came up against Angel Eyes, you'd be more inclined to go, well, okay, that guy, I can see it, because he's got he doesn't care about anything. But yeah, anyway, sorry, it was just something that just came to mind, because I was just suddenly thinking, well, actually, not really. He's supposed to come across as the kind of doofus rogue kind of thing, and he's never really supposed to come across as some kind of evil, because the evil is represented by Angel Eyes. And that's so I have a bit of a trouble trying to sort of equate what's being said on the rap sheet with what's actually being said. What's actually going on. Okay,
but to me that kind of stuck.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I'm just saying to me that's why I never really got sort of hung up on it for some reason.
Well, I didn't get. I noticed it this time, which I hadn't noticed before, but I didn't get hung up because I noticed it was different charges. And I'm thinking, does it work that they, Clint Eastwood takes him into town as the bounty hunter, and he goes, I'm turning this guy in. Here's his rap sheet. This is, this is what I'm owed for bringing him in.
Yeah.
And they keep, tweaking it and concocting it. Because in the first one, it's got all these really outlandish charges in it. Theft of sacred objects.
Yeah.
Transportation of sacred objects over state lines, and kind of.
Yeah.
It's kind of like thinking, what can we put him really bad? He's got a hang.
Yeah. So, yeah, to me, it just really... Yeah. Anyway, go on, carry on. Don't worry, mate, because it's just always we're going to go down a...
No problem.
Any Western historians out there can just tell us on the Facebook group how bounty hunting did work, because I can't imagine in like remote Western towns that everyone had like a big book of the wanted people.
Yeah, exactly.
I imagine it was open to abuse.
Yeah.
Could very well have been, yeah.
Okay, well, then you carry on anyway. Find out how many actual Western scholars we have on the group.
Indeed. Yeah. I mean, they certainly like shooting hats off people in this film, don't they? I'm sitting there thinking, oh, he shot another hat off another person.
Yeah.
There we go. And he shot another one. There you are. Okay, fine. So it just seemed a little bit overdone. I think the thing that put the lid on that for me was when you had Lee Van Cleef falls into the thing, and then he shoots the equipment or whatever by him into the grave with him.
Yeah, buries
like
him
the hat and the gun. It's like, oh, for God's sake! It's just a big slab of cheese right there, right there.
Okay,
but stuff I did like about this film. I think it did something that no other Western has ever done, which was it presented both sides of the Civil War. It got them involved with both halves, with the Confederates and the Union, which was good. I thought that was great, that little bit there. The whole thing when they're in the camp and they blow the bridge up, and boy, what an explosion.
Yep.
You know? So that was good. The seeing the bodies and everything as they go through, it's like quite an impact as to the sort of cost that this war is having on that country as well. You know, where they're just sort of like, you know, nobody's coming to pick those bodies up. They're just going to get left there to rot.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. And yeah, some of the shots in it are extremely iconic. I mean, you know, the thing with the poncho with Clint Eastwood. It's like, oh, this is, of course, you know, this is where it all came from. But it's surprising that was very little part of the film, yet it's probably it's the image that gets remembered the most. Whenever you think of Clint Eastwood in The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, you automatically associate him with a poncho.
Yeah.
Yet throughout most of that movie, he's got this really cool looking long coat on.
Yeah, I did like that long coat. That was very cool.
Exactly. He cut a very, very cool figure in that, you know. So yeah, the look of it, very, very good. Really like that. Really like that a lot. So in general, I really like the film.
Yeah.
You know, like I say, probably a bit too long, but yeah, I like the variety in where the story went. This sort of road movie that they had, you know, and the fact that you had, you know, the gun battle at the end of it, where they're all stood there looking at one another. Although I'm sitting there thinking, anytime you like, even with that, because that kind of for me, that just, you know,
just too much.
Yeah, it was like, oh, come on, get on with it, do something. It wasn't like me biting my nails thinking, oh, who's going to draw first? I got past that point.
Oh, okay.
And it was like, do something.
Fair enough. Okay. Well,
so there you go.
Right. Fair enough. So the whole thing comes down to, pardon the pun, length.
Yeah.
Okay.
I suppose so. It's just, for me, it didn't need to be that long. If it was filled with stuff, like, you know, to fill it out to 3 hours rather than somebody just walking to somewhere, it's like to me, it's like the Western version of 2001. You know, where Dave Bowman gets in the shuttlecraft.
Yeah.
And you literally follow him the entire length of that very slow journey.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a bit like that for me.
Oh, right, okay. Fair enough.
So, yeah.
Cool.
But without the disco bit at the end.
Without the disco.
So there we are.
Without the intergalactic disco.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for me, I have to say I haven't seen this film in decades, and it's kind of the film's length just addressed that. I mean, it was so long that I actually kind of vaguely remember bits of it, like the thinking they're the Confederates and brushing the dust off and shooting the noose, the hangman's noose. All of those bits, you know, I kind of always have them vaguely associated with two or three different films, and that was down to the length. But this time round, it was really strange. I watched it, and as I'm watching it, I didn't notice the time pass. I absolutely loved the long shots. I loved that kind of length of time that it took to do things, because it gave you that sense of scale that whenever... So when you got the moments like when Blondie's kind of drops, you know, Tuco in the middle of the desert and sort of just says, right, okay, I'm sure you can make a 70-mile walk from here. You're actually not in any doubt that 70-mile walk is a fucking long way, because you've just seen how far everything is. And for me, that actually worked. That worked really well. And it was it wasn't until I actually had to pause it to go and make myself a cup of tea and go to the loo and what have you, answer a phone call, that I realised that I'd been watching it for an hour and a half, and I still effectively had an hour and a half to go. And I'm like, oh, okay, it only feels like I've been watching 10 minutes. And it was because I was sort of just really enjoying the scenery, the view, the pacing, the really nifty trick, which I hadn't noticed before, but then again, it's been so long since I've seen it, that the way they film it is you're always so close on the characters' faces that if they don't see anything, you don't see anything. So, like, you have characters who would have obviously been seen from, like, miles away, suddenly appearing, like, from behind a tree or something. And you're like, how the fuck did they get there? And it was actually, after a few minutes, you kind of work out that it's kind of like the way they shoot this film is done to deliberately do that. You only see what a character will see. So if Tuco's looking at Blondie, and you sort of cut to Blondie full screen, and it stays there. So then when Tuco gets sort of the drop on him from Angel Eyes coming in from the left and throwing the shovel in, for example, and saying, oh, two can dig faster more than three. Two can dig faster better than one. It's because you kind of realise that that Angel Eyes would have been seen from miles away across that whole plane. Mm-hmm. But actually, because there's two shots are Blondie looking at Tuco and Tuco looking at Blondie, and the way it's framed is like to say these guys are focusing on each other. They haven't noticed him. They haven't noticed Angel Eyes coming in, and all the shots are done like that. You're always getting, if you're in a close up, you're getting the point of view of the other character. So when shit happens to them or things they don't notice, it's you know, part of you's going, how did that person turn up there? How did that happen? But you realise that the film's actually showing you what they see, so you only see what they see.
They use that shot in other scenes as well. When Blondie's putting his gun together,
yeah,
and they're trying to creep through the house, and they open the door, and you pretty much get the gun's perspective of everything that comes through that door.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I totally agree with that. I hadn't thought about that. But, yeah, the concentration of the characters, Blondie and Tuco, are only interested in Blondie and Tuco.
Yeah.
And so their attention is drawn by each other. Yeah. And so Angel Eyes does get the chance to creep up on them.
Yeah, in a massive open area with 360-degree view. And that's what I really liked this time around. I could sit there and watch it. And it felt like a sort of, like Lord of the Rings Western style. It was like the journey was more of the story than the story, and because for me it kind of got a bit wobbly around that bit when they kind of come across and they say they want to sign up for, you know, just that whole bit with the bridge. It was, I could see what they were doing, but that whole point of blowing up the bridge and ending that fight, and then Tuco and Blondie sort of just standing there going, oh, so many men going in there. What a waste of life, and all this sort of thing. That was 100% anti-war movie rhetoric. That was nothing to do with the story itself. And you could have lifted that whole thing out and it wouldn't have mattered at all. But it was interesting that it was kind of, the whole film was doing that. It was going, oh yeah, Westerns, the Western trope, here we are, here's the Westerns, and here's your sort of like cowboys and Indians kind of thing, your cowboys and bandits or whatever you want to call it. And they're all doing this whole thing of, you know, sort of like, this is the standard thing, this is, you know, your standard tropes, but actually all the shit they're doing to each other on a one-to-one basis. But it's not as ridiculous as 200,000 people trying to cross a bridge and blow each other up, or just randomly fire cannons into a town, or any of that stuff. And it actually was almost like the war movie, the Western movie being used to thumb its nose at the war movie. You know, it's like war movies are just like hundreds of people just smashing into each other. Look, it's stupid, you know, and totally anti-war ethic throughout the whole thing. I really appreciated that, but it did sort of threaten to derail in the last 30 minutes when it's just like, we've stopped on the quest just to have a little chat about the war and everything. And it's like, not so sure about that. But,
yeah, it's like a side mission in a video game nowadays, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're running to get to the big boss, and it says, "Oh, you've got 10 minutes to do the big boss," and then someone comes up to you and goes, "Can you go and rescue 15 cats from bins?" And you go off and do that, and it takes you 3/4 of an hour, and then you get back on the story again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So apart from that, I didn't really dig that as much as I thought I would. But overall, I loved this film. I thought it was really, really good. I know it's long, and I know everyone's talking about the length, but we've sat through longer films with less to say, to be honest, and with less aplomb. And I mean, not I know I'm going to hear the rolling of the eyes, but like for example, Superman versus Batman was an hour and a half, two and a half hours, and that film was shit. I watched 30 minutes more of another film and got a completely different experience, and it was slower, but I enjoyed it more because it was much more cohesive and much more going on, much more interest going on, and and so really length doesn't matter these days. I don't think if you're into the story and you're into the characters and you bought into it, that's it, hook, line, and sinker. Thanks very much. But whereas, like I say, Batman versus Superman, I'm just sitting there going, whatever. If you don't care about it, it doesn't matter if it's 10 minutes or 2 hours. So for me, 3 hours of that Western, loved it. The only thing that kind of threw me a bit was, and I think the wiki brought this up, was that Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is actually a prequel to A Few Dollars More and A Fistful of Dollars, which is kind of odd because obviously Angel Eyes is dead.
Yeah, they're all different characters as well.
Yeah, but
in those films.
But which is what I started to think. But then there's a bit where Eli Wallach kind of Tuco identifies Angel Eyes, and so does Clint's character Blondie. They both go. He goes, "Angel Eyes, where? There he is. Oh yeah, I see him." And it's like, so they obviously all know each other. And the kind of the impression I got was like, hang on, so they are the same characters from the other films. And I looked it up on Wiki, and it was like, no, actually they're not. But it is a trilogy. That was a little bit off. That was a little bit weird.
A bit of continuity amiss there, I suppose.
A little bit all over the place. But apart from that, totally down with it. I loved the film. I thought it was really well done. I thought for a film that I haven't seen in nearly 30 years and is longer than I imagined, and it was I just thought it was so well done. And none of the characters were 100% evil or 100% good. They all had their own little foibles. For every sort of shroot that Blondie gave out, and coat, to make him look good, he dumped Eli Wallach 70 miles in the middle of the desert. It's like, so it's, it was all a bit all over the place. But in terms of morals and the only thing I didn't get, and maybe someone can answer this, maybe I missed it, was Blondie is the only person who knows where the treasure's buried in the cemetery. Yeah?
Mm-hmm. I think I know what you're going to ask.
Yeah, so why does he go back why does he go and team up with Tuco?
Because he doesn't know where the cemetery is. He knows which gravestone it's under, but he doesn't know where the cemetery is. That's why he teams up with Tuco.
Yeah, and then Tuco basically tells him. But I got the impression that if he'd found out, I thought he found out everything.
No, he only found out which gravestone it was under.
Yeah, I mean, I knew there was, they both knew two halves of the story, but I thought at some point they both knew where they were heading. But
no.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe that's just me misreading it then.
Well, that's not what I thought you was going to ask.
Okay, what you
can I ask a question?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, when they're in the water and they're setting all the dynamite up to blow the bridge up, they do ask each other the other halves of the trail. In other words, they ask about the cemetery and they ask about what tombstone it's under.
Yeah.
Blondie gives a name of the tombstone. How did he know that name? I think I missed something, but how did he know the name of that soldier that was there?
Yeah, that's what he was told. The dying man told him that it's buried in a grave marked unknown that's next to Stanton's grave.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. That's how he knew.
Yeah.
Because he does say that at the end, doesn't he? Where he says it is okay, right? Yeah, I was just sat there going, how does he know that Stanton was there or whatever the name was? And that's where I got a little bit lost. I think when I was thinking about it, the answer was given.
Yeah. One last thing. Can I just say, how good is that soundtrack?
Oh, it's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. Every single part of it is.
Yeah, I just love that whole track. The going into the trio, going into the actual arena at the end, which has got the little the pocket watch playing the music, and it's a callback because I think it's a few dollars more that does the whole thing with the showdown when the pocket watch unwinds.
When the pocket watch chimes, yes.
Yeah. So you got that whole ding 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 ding, and it's just like and I suddenly thought, oh my god, is that actually in this film as well? The showdown being on the pocket watch, and it wasn't. It was just Morricone doing a callback, but such a good soundtrack. I downloaded it. I got a copy of it today, and I was just like, I've been listening to it all day. It's been great.
On the theme of the soundtrack as well, because you have the iconic Good, Bad, the Ugly theme tune, should we say. When it faded out, because it's my first time watching it, there's a prairie dog just howling, which sounds more or less exactly the same as that. Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah.
And I was, hang on.
Yeah.
I like that. That's very clever. I don't know whether that's meant or what. Accident, or I don't know, but I thought it was very clever.
I would imagine it is, given that, as we heard in the wiki when I was roughly trying to say stuff, it was that Morricone stuff was being played during the filming, and on top of that, they rarely actually recorded anything on set. So basically, I wouldn't have been surprised if all of that stuff was just added in and edit afterwards. But yeah.
So the dubbing on that film,
yes,
it doesn't matter what, like Blu-ray or if you get DVD or if you get VHS, all the dubs are going to be out. Is that correct?
Every single one. Every single one. You're either going to get English guys talking slightly out of time with their English lips, pardon the phrasing, or you're going to get an Italian version with Italian dub, where the Italian bits don't sync up with the Italian voice faces, and then all of a sudden Clint will start talking in Italian. So either way, you're screwed.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
It's something they used to do it an awful lot in European films, and actually in cheaper British and American films they used to do it as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But because it's the native language, you don't always have that slight mismatch between the voice and the appearance, and you can sort of tell it's not their voice. You don't always notice. But yeah, they used to do it a lot because I said that, especially these, the 60s and 70s, you had these mad productions where it was, French, Italian, Spanish, Italian, German, and Swiss sort of funded, and everyone just came and did the lines in their own own language.
Yeah. Though, did anyone else, before we go to the feedback, just one question on that, because it's amazing when you watch a YouTube video or watch something online and the sound goes out of sync. It's really, 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 really fucking annoying, and you kind of just like abandon it and just turn it off. What is it about films like this where you turn around and go, hang about, this is all out of sync. Actually, I don't care. Because I found I didn't care.
Well, it's one of those, I noticed it the first time I watched it on TV, but it I just roll with it. I think in a film like this, there isn't many scenes where people are talking 10 to the dozen.
Yeah.
it's all short lines. And I've noticed with sort of this sort of dubbing, it takes your brain a while to pick up on it and point it out.
Yeah.
So you need 2 or 3 sentences. But if you just go, stop smiling at idiots, your brain doesn't have time to go, ooh, look.
Yeah.
It's out of sync.
That's true.
And providing they get roughly the start and the end of the dialogue matching when the actors open and close their mouth, that covers a multitude of sins as well.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, that at least makes a bit more sense. Okay. Well, I think we shall leave it there. Overall, thumbs up, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Definitely.
Lovely. Good. Such a better start. This was the kind of thing I was hoping for when we started this Western stuff. So, let's move on to some feedback, shall we?
Yes, indeedy.
Now put your hands up, here online, doing real fine. We're doing our podcast thing. It's called Blackdog, it's not like a joke. Is anyone there listening? What do you think of our show? Let us know by MP3 or email. Just get it to us, it ain't no fuss. We'll even read your Twitter rings. Cause if you like us or you hate us, send some feedback in. Got a geek and point to raise and put some feedback in. If you think my voice is sexy, put some feedback in. Man, we really like it if you put some feedback in.
Right, okay, so it's feedback time. Before we go into feedback, just very quickly, you won't hear any feedback from Darren because he's got super early shift at 5 o'clock in the morning and we're here currently at 11 o'clock at night. So he's gone. So
No night, Darren.
Night,
no
night, Darren. Put on your little sleepy head and up the wooden hill to land of Nod.
Just watch out for Winky Man.
The Winky Man. We should have just stopped Shitty Superheroes right there. That's exactly where it should have finished. Should not have gone any further than that. Anyway, so Darren will be back next week when we do our next film. But for the moment, he's out of here. So let's get some feedback out of the way. The first bit of feedback is from Gary Mr. Spock Madden, and he writes, The Good, the Bad, and the Jesus. This is a long film. Right. News from the past. From the presence of a new Pong game in the theatre arcade and the Poseidon Adventure listed on the marquee as a coming attraction, I've deduced that Ensign Gray's trail has led us to 1972, and I can already see the damage in the hydrophobic twats done to the timeline. We got to go back and edit all these together to make some kind of sense out of a lot of this. The lobby is plastered with advertisements of Fresho the water substitute and public service announcements warning of the dangers of water exposure. Whatever the little lizard has in mind, it can't be good. I'd rejoin Sven, Ingvar and Bjorn in the theatre where the opening credits to this week's film were just starting, which means I've got a good 3 or 4 hours to ponder a course of action and pen my next feedback. That said, Eastwood's westerns were a big part of my childhood. And as I said last week, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly occupies one of the most prominent places in my memory. It's probably my father's favourite Western, and over the years I've watched it a dozen times. Excuse me. A few years ago, in a fit of nostalgia, I even bought the collector's edition, but I've never cracked open the cellophane. So this week I opened it up and gave it a watch. I looked at The Good and the Bad and the Ugly as Leoni's magnum opus, an opera in Spurs where everything from running time to the opening credits is swollen beyond reason. The music transcends the twangy faux period guitar and the banjo fare of most westerns, and as you pointed out last week, has become a sonic shorthand for standoffs from boardrooms to playgrounds. Even the terrain and the effects in the film are turned up to 11 stupid. And we open on a street scene that would have looked at home in Mad Max Fury Road, where the wind is even the wind's overreacting. It whines and howls to the point where it would have been more appropriate for Star Trek Original Series episode The Spectre of the Gun. Even physics and reason are warped to fit the needs of Leoni's story. While poring over the commentary I came on my box set, I've read that anything occurs outside of the shot the characters are unaware of. There you go. And this theory seems to hold up. See? Bingo!
Sorted.
There you go. See, I like a bit of justification in someone else's feedback. Considering the logic of Blondie and Tuco blindly strolling into Union Army encampment with thousands complete with rammed hearts and artillery placements, could you happen upon a soccer game without realising there were thousands of people nearby? Then there's the climactic scene in Sand Hill Cemetery, where, in spite of being a barren, flat wasteland without visual obstruction, each protagonist is unaware of the next presence. But maybe that's due to my rose-tinted specs, it all still works. What didn't work so well for me, in my opinion, was some of the send-ups to the cliché tropes that play a little too long. I've seen enough westerns to get that the close-up of staring eyes and furrowed brows are Leoni poking at the genre, but I really don't need to dwell on it for minutes. My least favourite example of this success is the big finish in the cemetery. By the time Tuco finds the grave he's looking for, and I'm suffering from motion sickness. I hate to think what the experience would have been like in D-Box. This watching, I also noticed it's painfully bad dubbing. Near the beginning of the film, we meet the half-soldier who gives Angel Eyes the name of Ben Carson. All I could think of was, not only has he lost his legs, but he's also lost the ability to sync his lips with his voice. Such a pity. We did find the origin of the High Plains Drifter bathtub scene, though. Anyway, this one will always keep a place in my heart, so it's a solid thumbs up from me. But for the nostalgia's sake more than anything else, I doubt I'll be digging it out for a rewatch anytime soon. Live long, and when you have to shoot, shoot. Don't talk. Gary, Mr. Spock Madden. Thank you very much for that, sir. So there you go. I wonder if that's going to be an ongoing theme for the rest of these feedbacks. Because, I don't know, nostalgia is probably going to play a large part for this. But for me, I have to say, I actually really enjoyed it this time around. But then again, I've only seen it like twice in nearly 30 years. So...
Well, I was surprised I'd like it. I really was.
So we were surprised you liked it as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So thank you very much for that, Gary. And we will move on to the next piece of feedback. And that is Jim.
It is Mr. Steve Bob.
Ah, Mr. Steve Bob. Okay, what does Mr. Steve Bob have to say about this film?
He says, howdy, partners. I hope you're all doing well. I'm really enjoying the podcast.
Thank you.
Anyway, on to this week's film. I fucking hate Westerns. As Jim was saying last week, there was a period of time in UK TV history where virtually every day there was at least one or two Westerns on TV. And if it wasn't a Western film, then it was some shit Western TV show like Bonanza or The Little House on the fucking Prairie. When there's just 3 TV channels, you were pretty much fucked.
Yep.
I hated Westerns. I hated them most of all. As a kid, I'd usually go out and play with my friends, but on rainy days, when you couldn't go out, there was always some shit Western on TV. And that's what really Westerns remind me of, rainy days when I was stuck in the house. It's not that I have an issue with the Western as a film setting, it's just the sheer number of shit Westerns that takes the whole genre. There are quite a few good ones, and ending with Clinton was usually a good one, due largely to his collaboration with Sergio Leoni. If you have a good story with good characters, then you can fit that into almost any genre. All you need is a good director, some good actors, to complete the film. Japanese films like Yojimbo, Seven Samurai made great westerns. Seven Samurai also being reinvented for science fiction, along with The Hidden Fortress. Mm-hmm. I always loved the Dollars trilogy, and not because they were westerns, because they were just great films. You could have set them in the samurai genre, SF, crime or fantasy, and they would still stand up as long as they were competently directed. The Good, the Bad and the Ugly was usually on late at night. I have to admit that I did find the slow pace made it hard for me to stay awake. As a kid, I usually fell asleep at the bridge scene, and I fell asleep here on the rewatch too, only to wake up when hearing the music for the climactic ending in the graveyard. I really like the bridge scene. It adds to the world, with the film being set against the backdrop of the Civil War. The bridge scene could have probably been cut, but I'm not sure whether that'd make it better or worse. In a way, the bridge scene is a distraction that takes the viewer away from the main story. But when the main story picks up again at the graveyard with the music, the film explodes into life again. I think the slow pace helps build the world and the characters, along with the epic music and the shots that build the tension. And these are what make the moments of plot development so dramatic. I can imagine a modern movie studio would make a much tighter, cut-down version of the film, and that might be more popular, but it would diminish the operatic greatness of the film. The cinematography is still superb, even by today's standard. The music is epic. My dad used to have the soundtrack on cassette tape. Clint is excellent as the lead. Van Cleef is a solid bad guy, but it's Eli Wallach giving the performance that really glues the film and the main characters together. It's the humour and diabolical duplicitousness of the ugly that drive the story along. Without him, we would just have two mysterious good and bad characters who don't say too much. So, in summary, I still hate westerns, but this just isn't a western. It's a great film. Keep up the excellent work, guys. Steve Bob.
Thank you very much for that, sir. Yes. It is interesting that actually, as he points out there, it's like it's not really Clint's film, is it? It's actually Eli Wallach's. It is
definitely.
It is Tuco's story, and it does, but then it doesn't really treat him particularly well. So, yeah, it's cool. It's interesting that it's him that kind of keeps the whole thing chugging along, and for the most part, you follow him more than anything else. So, cool. Anyway, thank you very much for that, sir. Good feedback, and yeah, I'm wondering if anyone has actually ever adapted Good, the Bad, and the Ugly for a different genre.
There is it's an Eastern film called The Good, the Bad, and the Weird, which does actually draw more than just the title.
Oh, right. Okay.
But that's a film I saw late at night many years ago, and I just remember it being strange. So
yeah,
I should go back to that one, actually. I remember it was fun and demented. But,
well, sounds...
They're the best ones.
That was in a period where, like, an unofficial film club, when a friend of mine, his brother was getting all these, like, Hong Kong and Japanese and Korean films, and he'd send them down to him on videotape. Then he'd come round and we'd sit and watch 3 or 4 in a night and get hammered. So yeah, I need to revisit The Good, the Bad, and the Weird.
Oh, it sounds like it's right up your wheelhouse, to be
yes,
honest.
Definitely.
Excellent. Okay, epic series of adaptations coming soon to Hypnagoria. Cool. Anyway, thank you very much for that, Steve Bob. Thank you very much. Good feedback. And right, we'll move on. So, Elton, who do you have first?
I have Martin Thompson.
Ah, chaotic neutral. And what does he have to say?
Right, he says, "Dear sirs, if you're reading this, I assume you managed to find the rock I wrote it on and placed it in Dartford Park. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly was another first-time watch for me, and another film I enjoyed. The first time was a bit long, but it never seemed to drag that much. The final showdown was very tense too, and left me guessing as to whether anyone would get the gold and who would make it out alive. Tuco was a wonderfully Weasley and very watchable character." Gosh, I nearly stumbled all over that. And I see that this is the film that gave Clint Eastwood the iconic image of the cigar-smoking man in a poncho, although I would have liked to see more of Angel Eyes. Yeah, I totally agree on that.
Yeah, Angel Eyes just kind of... He bookends the film. He doesn't really do much else, does he?
No. Well, there's that bit where he's talking to the soldier with no legs. And you do get the compassion from him. He's a military man. He's got respect for the veterans and such like. But he also needs the knowledge, and so he's teasing him with the money.
Yeah.
And so you get 2 traits of him in one shot, really.
Yeah.
Anyway, he continues. One niggle, though. I have to wonder how a weakened Blondie managed to make it down to the carriage to hear the dying Carson give the name on the grave while Tuco was fetching water. In fact, I wonder right up until the final showdown as to whether he really had heard the name or if it was just stringing Tuco along so he wouldn't leave him to die. The makeup on his face as he crawled through the desert was really good too. I expect the soundtrack will come up in the podcast too, and I have to say I never fully appreciate the wonderful theme until I heard it here in full, although I would say I think it was the only music they had since it was played so many times in the film. It was nice to have a story played out among the Civil War backdrop too. So were the guys in grey Team Iron Man or Team Captain? Cheers, Martin. I'd say the grey were Team Iron Man and blue were Team Captain.
Oh, I don't know. Grey would have been more, guys doing stuff because their bosses told them to, whereas, so that... All right, shut up. Jeez. You asked me the question, you came out with an answer, and then you just blow me up. Fucking hellfire. God, dear, I thought Darren had left.
Keeping the spirit alive, baby.
Anyway, yes, thank you very much for that, Martin. I would give you an answer to that question, but I'm afraid that the snoring from Elton would probably drown you out. Right, so, yeah, you don't get to see an awful lot of Angel Eyes. I think that is a bit of a weird choice, but because it really kind of sidelines him into just like the bad guy just to get shot in the end. But apart from that, good feedback. Good feedback, sir, and I now appear to have hiccups, so that's always fun. So let's try and read out some feedback, which won't have me hiccuping, or maybe it will. Well, let's hear. It's Doreen Kelly, and Doreen writes, "The good, bad, the ugly feedback. Hi. Well, that was an epic watch. I'm glad I've now seen the good, bad, and the ugly. In the same sort of way as I'm glad I've seen Gone with the Wind, as I can say I've seen it, if I need to. It's unlikely that I'll watch it again, though, not because I hated it, but because I'm a wee bit lazy when it comes to TV. Why watch something that requires a fair bit of effort when there's so many easier options? I'll save my concentration for documentaries. So let's get to what I liked and what I didn't like, and why this film is well named in more ways than one. The music and musical cues are amazing, and they carried me through. The epic landscapes, the visual shots are all masterful. The actor's eye and the physical acting was brilliant, and they seem to have just the right economy of movement. All the looks sizing each other up seem to hit the right mark for me and illustrate the points made in the last cast, i.e. if in the Wild West the gun was king. However, a guy has to be mighty sure before he takes the first offensive action, because it wasn't like there was a hospital within easy travel distance, and then you would have to pay for the treatment. And it was especially evident in the climactic Mexican standoff. The good, do-do-do-do, wah, wah, wah. Oh, that reminds me, perhaps Mr. Owl could help with the soundtrack tonight. How long was this film? And boy, did it feel longer. I was searching the net this morning for the music to remind myself so I could write this feedback, and I found a highlight clip reel that showed pretty much all the action in the story and told it in less than 3 minutes, rather than 3 hours. One quick question, and I'm no expert in armaments, but can a wet gun fire? Don't know.
What was that, a wet gun?
Yeah, a wet gun.
When Tuco's in the bath.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, it depends on if the gunpowder's wet or not.
I guess so, because the gun, because old guns are basically, they don't have gunpowder in the actual hammer, do they? It's inside the bullet. So as long as the bullet's dry inside. I imagine.
So maybe just have the gun in the foam rather than under the water.
As we all have at one point in our lives.
Yeah, we've all held the gun under the foam.
Yes.
Yes.
Thanks, matey.
Yeah, euphemism. Anyway, she continues. The bad. Doodle-doodle-doo, wah, 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 doo-doo-doo. Thank you. I think I was most upset by the woman being dumped back into town by the soldiers, as I was by High Plains Drifter. But yes, Lee, there is something worse about being made to watch something rather, and consequently being made to be complicit in the crime. The other smack in the face came with the relatively graphic depiction of the aftermath of the battles within the war zone that was shown. Not that I object to seeing this, it wasn't pleasant. And the ugly, doo-doo-doo, wah, 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 doo-doo-doo-doo. Thank you. Yeah, so it was not pleasant, the ugly, and do that bit. Thanks, Doreen, sent via the train and pony from the plains of Scotland. Well, there you go. So the ugly bit was just on the end. I kind of gave it the emphasis in the wrong way. Great, I've ruined another bit of reading out. Hooray, I've succeeded again. Thanks, Doreen. Good feedback. And, again, going back to High Plains Drifter, if you see something and you're complicit in it, it makes things 100 times worse than just being told these things happen. But anyway, thank you very much. Good feedback. Glad you've seen it. Glad you liked it. And glad that you're as lazy as I am when it comes to TV. So, let's move on. So, Jim, who do you have next?
Next, we have Mr. Glenn Kimberley.
Ah, Steampunk Glenn with
yes.
with the where the legs are only real halfway down. I can't remember the gag now. See, this is where we need Darren. Steampunk Glenn with his half a leg or something. I can't remember where we went. But anyway, doesn't matter. Carry on. What does Glenn have to say?
And he writes, subject line: there are two types of people in this world: those who record the podcast and those who listen to it.
No, there's the title right there.
Anyhow, Glenn writes, hello all. This was a mystery monocle for me. I've never been a fan of westerns, but this was unlike the cleaned-up, sanitised John Wayne westerns. This was gritty, grimy, sweaty, and I think more true to how the Wild West actually was. A dirty, violent place of dubious morals. The cinematography was outstanding. The score was amazing. Clint Eastwood was great as Blondie, but I think the main star of the story was Eli Wallach as Tuco, a despicable person, but you can't help but like his underdog character. He also gets some of the best scenes. The bathtub scene is particularly brilliant with the great "when you gotta shoot, shoot, don't talk" line. Lee Van Cleef as Angel Eyes was also brilliant, a truly villainous figure. There's also a lot of pathos in the story, with the scenes of the Civil War soldiers on both sides of the war. All told, this was a great watch. Really enjoyed it, despite not being a Western fan. Take care, chaps. Glenn.
Thank you very much for that, Glenn. Yes. See, this seems to be this is interesting. It seems to be pulling people in, and people go, oh, I don't like Westerns, but...
Yes, indeed. Mm.
Yeah.
This is the gateway drug Western, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, definitely, because I think the next two are going to be kind of the hard uphill climb for Westerns, if you don't like Westerns.
Well, I think that's where it helps with the Civil War setting.
Yeah.
Because it can take you out of that Western, grimy, dusty feel of just a plain old Western.
Mm.
It gives you a wider world, doesn't it? And as I said, for me, it really gave it a context. It was something I could get a handle of when the Wild West was. Mm. Which, I think that makes a big difference when, it gives you an in.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. It gives you enough context that suddenly it doesn't... Because one of the things that's always a little hard to get your head around is while the Americans were running around in big wide brim hats and ponchos shooting everyone... over in England, it was all Victorian era top hats and Grey Poupon, Tiffin, and Jack the Ripper. It's kind of you couldn't put those two sort of worlds together. It just doesn't make sense. But then you watch something like Penny Dreadful, and you see Josh Hartnett kind of running around being his cowboy self in Victorian England, and
but America hasn't changed much either, has it? Really?
No, not really.
Well, there was a scene where the Bluecoats had, I can't remember who it was, but they lined him up against someone's house and then just shot him.
Yeah, and they would have.
And they had the coffin there with him as well. And you're like, okay, flipping hell.
Well, there you go, lovely. So, all our listeners in America, thanks for listening. Ta-da! We'll send the tea back. Don't worry. So, anyway, thanks for that. Thanks for the feedback, Glenn. Good feedback. And, let's move on to our last bit of feedback from you, Elton.
Okay, right. I have Will Catlin Hallett.
Ah, fiendish Dr. Will. And what does he have to say?
He says, the good. It was clearly a very well-made film, and they put a lot of effort into it. Eastwood is really very pretty. He is actually, yes. The bad. It was a mind-numbingly long, half an hour was just to finish the opening credits. Spent half the film shouting at the screen to get a move on because we'd already got the hint. I felt like they'd fired the editor and just included a complete uncut version of everything they filmed. The Ugly. No temptation to watch it ever again, even though I can see the good in it. That's it.
That's
Will.
it. There you go. Well, that's short and concise, and thank you very much for that, sir.
I think the first half hour doesn't help because it takes a whole 10 minutes for anyone to say anything at all.
Okay, I mean, the thing with that sort of thing is, mileage may vary, and I understand entirely. I mean, there's nothing. I completely get anyone who says they don't like this film because it's too blooming long and too slow. I completely understand that. That completely makes sense to me. But yeah, I mean, for me, I personally liked it. I thought the pacing was kind of what it needs to be. I mean, it's the same as something like Lawrence of Arabia, which I'm sure that if we get round to it at one point, it'll always be that. It takes fucking 15 minutes to come out of the horizon, and, it's not saying that people who think it's slow are wrong, because they're not. No. It is terribly slow, but it's kind of like you're either on board for it or you're not, and if you're not and it doesn't grab you, then it does. I can imagine it feels a lot longer because, like I say, I was literally an hour and a half into it, and I didn't feel like I'd watched an hour and a half worth of movie. So,
yeah, I got an hour in before I'm like, an hour in.
Yeah,
I thought it'd be 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think the thing is whenever you get a long film, and it's also true of long books, once they go over a certain mark, there will always be people who say it needed an editor. And I always kind of think I dig people don't always like the longer form, but at the same time, I always feel it's a lazy criticism. Some things, I don't know, really can go for being long, and that's you can compress it down to the story points, but you'll lose the flavour.
Yeah,
you lose the magic in it. You know what I mean? It's some films are like a quick shower. This is like a long, luxurious bath. Yeah, like opera, it's meant to be self-indulgent and long.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not to everybody's taste, and fair dues. But I think a film like this, though, it's not a case of it needed an editor. It was deliberately done that way to be epic.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, but I do see Will's point, because in some cases, I mean, with the sort of editor thing, I mean, some films are overlong and ponderous, and it's kind of almost like if you're not on board with it, if you're not feeling it, then you do feel that there's stuff that can be taken out. So you're almost becoming the editor in your own head. So you are sitting there going, well, actually, we don't need this shot, because really I would like to move on now. And from that point of view, I completely get it. I mean, like I say, as much as I know I keep honking on about it at the moment, but with the Batman versus Superman thing, it's like there are people who went in there and loved the shit out of it. And they didn't think it was too long, they didn't think it was too baggy or anything, because they were on board and they were into it. Whereas I was sitting there going, that scene could be removed, that could be removed, that's too long, that's boring, that makes no sense narratively, bang, 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 bang. And so again, I would have probably used exactly the same criticism on that, saying, this film needs an editor. And so I kind of understand the whole point of people saying it needs an editor, because it's really kind of at that point it's where you as a viewer have kind of checked out and gone, okay, I'm bored now. Please do something to make this film more palatable for me, because I no longer am on board with it. So yeah. Anyway, that's just my 10 cents. But cool. Anyway, good feedback. The shortest feedback with the longest bit of discussion after it. So let's move on. So Elton, that was your last piece of feedback. So my last piece of feedback, before we get to the MP3, is from David Lefavre Sell, Yogi Dave, no less. And he writes, "Doo sploosh. Hello, Blackdog. I am painfully excited for this week's film, For me, calling The Good, the Bad and the Ugly a mere rose-tinted specs is an epic understatement akin to applying the same title to Back to the Future or Raiders of the Lost Ark. I cannot wait to hear the thoughts of those who are seeing it for the first time. I wonder if Elton's reaction will have me shouting at my headphones on the tube again.
Oh dear.
Well, there you go.
I'd like to know what film he's done that to me. Oh dear.
I don't know. Maybe we'll find out on the shindig. Not that I'm unaware of the flaws of this film, and for all its flaws, that makes it even more brilliant. The bad dubbing, for instance. I imagine Jim has already mentioned this, but all the actors spoke their native languages and just said any old shit, and then the screenplay was rewritten around their dubbing, mostly, to match the lip movements of the actors. It's a minor miracle the film is even coherent. The language barrier is such that Eli Wallach and the director had to speak in French to each other, so that Leoni had so little English and Wallach had so little Italian, and it might explain why Wallach was nearly killed several times during the filming, which I did cover, but that other bit of fact is really interesting. Find the common language. Of course, the film is incredibly slow by today's standards, but it's also so beautifully shot and allows the build-up of tension in the scenes like where Angel Eyes is introduced. Fuck it. Look, I love this fucking movie. I love the music. I love the way the bullets ricochet off of every goddamn thing. I love that everyone looks sweaty and they get their clothes off of corpses. And if this film were a woman, she'd be a sweaty old Italian prostitute with mysterious scars and a dramatic flair, and I'd leave my wife for her in a heartbeat. So, yeah. Thanks, guys. Yogi Dave. Thanks, Dave. Hopefully, your wife is not listening, and there are no manky old sweaty Italian prostitutes with mysterious scars in the nearby presence, and that this podcast is not used in the divorce proceedings. But thank you very much for that. Good feedback, sir. And I'm glad we've given you a chance to sort of express yourself over one of your favourite movies. It's always good when that happens. So, thank you very much. And, yeah, it's time to move on to our MP3 feedback now. That's all our written feedback done and dusted. Our first bit of MP3 feedback is from the Orgs, Anne-Marie and Pete Organ, who do the excellent Orgcast, which is the Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Next Generation podcast. And Pete also does this other thing with two other idiots about spaceships. So, anyway, let's hear what they have to say about this film.
Hello, chaps.
Hello.
Fantastic soundtrack to that film.
Yes.
Although all the spaghetti westerns have great soundtracks, that's to be said, with lots of random noises. I like the random noises. Yeah. I also like Lee Van Cleef's face, which seems like it's been carved out of granite.
Yeah.
He's better in A Few Dollars More, it has to be said. He plays a more interesting character. But
the thing is, both Fistful of Dollars and A Few Dollars More are miles better than this movie.
Yeah, this one's a bit bloated.
You could ignore... Well, you'd need to watch the first 15 minutes and then pick the movie up around about 85 minutes in, and you'd be fine. So that's over an hour you could skip without missing anything. This is the movie equivalent of a Joanne Abercrombie book, which, by the way, you can start usually on page 400 and be fine.
I disagree, but that's a different matter.
Yes.
There's loads of wide vistas with just like a dog wandering across the screen. I'll get on with it.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, okay, I don't need to see your holiday photo album anymore, you know? It's, And it's not just that, it's just there's so much where nothing of consequence happens. It doesn't, it's not that necessarily nothing at all is happening, but it isn't of consequence. We don't need to see it. This is an unnecessarily long movie.
Yeah.
I don't mind movies that are long when there is a reason to be long. To be fair, I'm not convinced I've yet watched a movie more than 3 hours long that justified it. Now, that could be, you know, maybe I haven't watched the right movies, or maybe I'm forgetting one, but as a rule, if you're over 3 hours, you fucked up somewhere along the line and you need a better editor.
You've gone done fucked up.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, in common with the other spaghetti westerns, there's some fantastic dubbing.
Yeah.
Quite blatantly, a lot of the actors aren't speaking the same language as they're being dubbed into.
Oh, I know.
And there's some great lines as well.
Yeah, yeah.
See you soon, idiots. It's for you.
Yeah. When you have to shoot, shoot. Don't talk.
Tuco is a great character.
Yes.
Yeah, he's about the introduction to this in this film that's better than the previous two.
Yeah, no, yeah. I would agree with that. He is a really good character, and he's stupid, but actually not that stupid.
Yes, no, he's stupid but cunning.
Yeah. I love the blowing up of the bridge.
Yes, that's fantastic. I love the general dirty grittiness of it all. In common with the other, everybody's got a craggy face. There's no typical Hollywood faces in this.
No, and I love the scene where they think they're in the grey uniforms and they're all covered in dust.
Yes, that's very good.
Yeah,
there's good stuff here. It's just too long, way too bloated.
Way too long.
Whereas the previous two are a lot tighter.
Much.
And a lot more fun as a result.
Yeah, I definitely prefer the previous two, but for me, this isn't a bad movie. For me, this is just an okay movie, whereas the other two in the trilogy are good movies. Yeah. Really, really good. It's all right. I don't mind it. I was bored for quite a long time, but it's not offensive. I mean, crucially, like, the bad, Lee Van Cleef, doesn't rape the woman he's interrogating.
He's also
not
in an awful lot of the movie as well.
Yeah.
He disappears for a long, long period. It's like...
Yeah, but you know, compare this with High Plains Drifter. You haven't got a horrible rape scene.
So there we go. It's not bad, but not great.
Yeah, so it's not bad, it's not good. Does that make it the ugly?
Possibly. Cheerio.
Bye.
Wow. Back to you guys. Thank you very much for that. So, again, we need an editor because this is too damn long comment comes out. So, well, we've discussed that thing already. But thank you very much for that, guys. Yeah, we may go and do the other films. Would you like to see them, Elton?
I'm currently watching them.
What, right now?
Not now. No. I bought a box set. It's a 6-disc set, and it's got the other two in it. And so I thought, in the build up to this month, I thought I'd try and get them in. I just haven't had time to get them all in to watch them. So, but yeah, I do want to watch them.
Yeah,
I do want to watch them.
Cool.
Can I just say on that bridge explosion? Because this is my first time watching it, I was quite shocked to see a lump of wood when Clint Eastwood jumps behind a sack in the trench when the bomb, when it all explodes. To see a lump of wood travelling around about 40 miles an hour miss his head by about a foot.
Yeah, as I said earlier, Sergio Leoni wasn't really concerned about health and safety on set. Yeah, I mean, there was lots of stuff like that. I mean, that explosion was quite something, and the fact is that was the second time of doing it as well.
It was a mega explosion. You can almost see the shockwave just popping out of that. That's just amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of those things, kind of actually, it's a great shot, but if you say compare it to a modern blockbuster, it's quite a tame explosion visually, but it has so much more weight because you sat there watching going, shit, they really blew up that bridge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's kind of, I find this a lot increasingly when I'm watching, movies from the pre-magic computer special effects days where you can do anything. And when you see car chases and explosions, they might actually be quite small scale compared to whatever's, terracing around or exploding in your local multiplex. But somehow these have so much more impact because it was done for real. And it is that kind of like, wow. It's sometimes less is more.
Yeah.
I mean, never mind the old practical versus CGI. Do it for real. That wins every time, hands down, doing it for real.
Totally agree.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, the only explosion which has been done in modern times that I thought was any good, just going off on a slight tangent, was the one from Dark Knight when the Joker blows up the hospital.
Oh yes,
and that was a good one. And he walks out, and obviously, clearly, the thing never triggered, and he kind of pressed the button, and it doesn't work, and he just sort of turns around, and as he turns around, the whole place just blows up, and he kind of goes, "Ooh!" And you actually see the proper shock on his face, like "Fuck!" Yeah. So But apart from that, yeah, I'm completely down with it. I have to say that, nothing beats a proper physical explosion with some proper detonator cord and several thousand tons of wood across a river. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for that, guys. Thank you, Pete, and thank you, Anne-Marie. And like I say, you can hear Anne-Marie and Peter on their own cast, the Org cast, which you can find at Borgcast at Borgcast.geekplanetonline.com. See, I'm losing it. My brain is clearly not working.
You're just giving out emails and Twitter handles and everything.
Yeah. At something. Yeah, at boxoffrogs.mad.com. I don't know. Anyway, so, not them, me. Oh, God, I'm just digging a hole for myself with every word.
Move on.
Move on. Yeah. Baby. Disappear. Right. Nice. Call back. Right, okay, so the last piece of MP3 feedback is from Drew and Tracy. So let's hear what they thought of The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Oh, by the way, before we do this, please note, because I haven't heard this yet, but please note that on Facebook, Drew and Tracy were talking about watching this film, and Tracy was not happy because she had to stop. She wasn't allowed to watch Prometheus and watch this instead, and she was a bit put out. So let's hear if she brings that up, because if she doesn't, or if she does and it's positive Prometheus, well, my sleep-addled brain may do something it shouldn't do. Let's move on.
What did you think of it then? Because, very quickly, I'm just going to say, I've seen this film like 100 times.
Have you?
Yep. And I think it's very long. I think it's slow. I even think it's an endurance to watch. You've really got to force yourself to sit through it. But I love it. I think it's worth the 3 hours of watching it. I really, really enjoy it. You go through dips of being a bit bored, but at the end of it, I just think it was well worth 3 hours of my time watching it. But what did you think?
I can remember us watching this before.
No, you didn't watch it, because every time we've watched this before, you just go asleep.
No, I do remember.
Just like,
I do remember some of it. I do.
It.
We've definitely seen some of this before.
Yeah.
Can't remember it in its entirety, so it must have been a bit of a snoozy for me at some point. But actually, I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, it's slow and boring in the middle.
To be fair, though, we have to say we did watch this in 2 parts. We started off Saturday night quite late, and I did fall asleep. Yeah, and then I kind of thought, no, I need to concentrate on the rest of it. So we kind of started
again, isn't it? It's excellent.
And I did enjoy it. Yeah, there was this one bit where you were saying I wanted to write some notes, and you were like, "Don't take your eyes off the screen."
The gunfight at the end, the freeway gunfight. You started to get on Facebook.
I wasn't on Facebook. I was trying to write notes.
Off Facebook.
But I was trying to write, and my pen wouldn't work. And I was like, so
it's excellent. A couple of things I like about this is it's basically it's Tuco's story, isn't it?
Yeah.
The whole film is him, and the other people are. I mean, a lot of it is Blondie as well, but it's his story.
To be fair, I don't think I remember seeing any women in this film, which is fair dues. But
there's that woman at the beginning, I guess.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The wife, or the woman who gets her son and her husband killed. But to be fair, Clint Eastwood is a bit of eye candy in this. I didn't quite realise how tasty he was as he was young. But that kind of gripped my interest. I think if you said to a woman, watch this film, it's a Western, she'd be like, fuck off. Watch it with Clint Eastwood, she'd be like, okay now, let's have it.
The soundtrack, I mean, I'm sure every single person is going to say this. It's excellent though, isn't it? It's absolutely brilliant. It's got to be one of the best soundtracks to any film, apart from possibly 2001.
It was, but
ever.
In the last 20 minutes we were like, this is like fucking watching Kill Bill.
Yeah, but because Tarantino...
He did. He ripped this off solidly.
Not ripped off, but I just think completely and utterly wants to emulate it because it's so good.
It was just a bit... I couldn't concentrate because I was just like, it's Kill Bill. Yeah, the bad angel eyes. He's a nasty bastard, wasn't he?
Yes.
And the ugly, that's a bit harsh, to be fair. He wasn't quite...
No, he wasn't, no.
Ugly.
Tuco's not ugly.
You know, the good... Hey, good looking. That's what
he's not even
called.
good though, is he?
He didn't turn out to be in the end, but he did have some really endearing moments where he found that soldier who was he was dying, and he put the coat over him and gave him a toke of fag. I thought that was quite nice.
And talking about that, it's another thing I think is really good about it. There's a lot of humour in it. I mean, there's some real funny bits in it. I think the best one though is when when they're in the grey coats and they're like going, yeah, up with like the Southern or whatever they're called, the Confederates, and then they turn up and they got all the dust over them. That's excellent. But that's one of many really funny bits in this film.
Do you think Tuco went, shit?
That's exactly what I felt.
So Tuco's on the train in the wagon, and he's like, I need to pee.
When the guy was handcuffed.
Yeah, the soldier. No, he wasn't a soldier, was he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, okay. Blue coat.
Yeah. So he said, I need to pee. So he like sticks his todger out at the side, and then he's like, no, I can't pee because you're looking at me, right? I'm like, really? Is that something that men really seriously can't do?
Yeah, that is. Yeah, shy bladder syndrome.
Really? Because it just goes against the genders, isn't it? Because a woman can't pee unless she's got someone with her in the loo, to be fair.
It's opposite,
you have to go in pairs, but you're like, man can't pee if someone's even giving him eye look. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah. I could have told you that before I started watching it. Absolutely love it. It's a fave, one of millions of faves of mine.
This was another one of these films where I was like pottering around and like, are we going to watch? And I'm like, yes. And you was like an hour later, are we going to fucking watch this film? Yeah. And I'm like, yes. But now I've done it, I enjoyed it. And I'm actually quite keen to watch the next one. I can't believe I'm saying
it's not an easy watch, but I do think it's worth 3 hours of watching, because at the end of it you're like, that was a good experience.
There's a lot more I could do in 3 hours, to be fair, than watch this, but I enjoyed it.
Yep.
Let's see what the next one brings.
Okay.
Lovely. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Ta-da.
Ta-da. Well, there you go. So as long as there's a bit of eye candy, Tracy's up for it. That's what we have to remember next time, guys. Oh dear. Well, I'm glad you liked it anyway, and I'm glad you're looking forward to the next film. There isn't as much eye candy in the next film, I can tell you that for nothing. And I'm also glad you didn't start complaining about missing out on Prometheus. So that's good. We're all good. Everything worked out well. Yeah, it's a great film. I love it, and I'm glad Drew liked it, and I'm glad that Tracy liked it, and I'm glad that everyone wrote in and said that they liked it, and even the people who said it was too long still had a grudging admiration for it. So, thank you very much, guys. Thank you for all your feedback. Thank you for writing in. Thank you for sending in your MP3s. It's all good. And now it's time to wrap it all up and tell you what the next film is. Well, the next film is actually a remake and a reboot. And if it was science fiction, that would have meant thousands of people rioting in the streets going, "Oh, worst film ever!" But, in fact, I think this is one of those rare occasions where the reboot is better than the original. Now, okay, I may get crucified for this by people who actually like the original, and that's fine. If you do, you do, and I didn't really care for it, to be honest. But it is the remake of True Grit, which had in the original had Rooster Cockburn, played by a sort of aging John Wayne, and also originated the move that Arnie would later pull out for Terminator 2, where he reloads the rifle with one hand, sort of rolling it over his fingers.
Yeah. Sort of, the Winchester.
Yeah, that was actually Rooster Cockburn, because in True Grit, the original, he was riding along on a horse doing that with two guns, two rifles, so he could ride, with a bit between his teeth. So it's an interesting film. It's a much slower film than the one we've had. I can hear everyone going, "No," but it feels more like a Coen Brothers movie, this one, than a normal Western. And it stars Jeff Bridges and Matt Damon. So, yeah, it's going to be a different watch altogether, I think. But I won't say anything more about the story. But yeah, it's the remake of True Grit. Do not get the one with John Wayne. If you get the one with John Wayne, by all means, if you do, fine, you do. But it ain't the film we're reviewing. So, Jim, have you seen this film before?
I've not, actually. It's one I've always meant to get round to, but somehow never did for some weird reason.
Okie dokie. Cool. And
even though I really like the Coen Brothers. How this one's escaped so long, I'm not entirely sure. But
yeah. I can't actually remember if it is actually a Coen Brothers movie. I can't remember, or if it's just they is it? Right,
yep,
okay.
I'm looking at it. They're both knocked down as directors.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's cool. Because because it's one of those films where you sit there and you watch it and you kind of it feels like a Coen Brothers movie, and I was pretty sure it was, but I couldn't remember. So I guess you haven't seen it either, then, Elton.
No, I've never seen this. I'm trying to bring up the Coen Brothers to see what else I've seen of theirs.
Big Lebowski.
No.
Miller's Crossing.
No.
Fargo.
Yes.
No Country for Old Men.
No.
Hudsucker Proxy.
No.
Blood Simple.
No. Right, let's stop playing.
Hail Caesar.
No.
Herbie Goes Bananas.
One of these may not be right. Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yes, I've seen that.
Okay. Raising Arizona. Blood Simple.
No.
Man Who Wasn't There.
This is the worst game. Never make a board game of this game.
Yeah, okay. They were executive producers on Bad Santa, if that helps.
Oh, good.
There you go. I don't know. I was trying to help.
But no, you didn't, because you brought up memories of Bad Santa.
Oh, what's wrong with that? Miserable sod. Anyway, right. Well, normally they have nothing. They don't usually produce that kind of film. They direct some really slightly quirky, offbeat films. So, right. Well, there you go. So, if anyone would like to send in feedback for True Grit, the remake with Jeff Bridges and missing half of his teeth by the sound of it, then by all means send it in to blackdog@geekplanetonline.com. Or leave your feedback on the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/the Blackdog Podcast. Don't worry about the Twitter feed. Twitter's gone. I could not give less of a shit about Twitter. I've had enough. So that did I tell you. So, gentlemen, have you got anything to plug before we make a move?
Go on, Jim.
Oh, okay. You can hear me on my own podcast every week, Hypnagoria. The episode just went out this weekend is one of our regular book club, as it were, episodes, Tomagoria, in which me and Odile Thomas are discussing Disclaimer by Ready Knight. And coming this weekend, I'm doing a commentary for cult undead British biker flick Psychomania.
Okay, cool. And what about you, Elton?
Last week, I recorded a episode of Shonky Lab, which you can find at shonkylab.com. It was an episode about moving house, and I was joined by the resident troll of the Black Dog, Mr. Lee Harvey, and Pete Hammond.
Ah, cool.
So please pop over there and give him a listen.
Excellent. Okay.
Can I also say thank you to everyone who's voted for us in that little poll that I stuck up on the Black Dog Facebook group?
Yes.
I'm not too sure how long that's running for, but when you're going up against video games podcasts and wrestling podcasts, you get people like Ollie Peters jumping around, ripping their tops off, going, "No, vote for this one instead."
Vote for Men in Tights. It's real, you know.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So we're going up against video games and fake wrestling. So thank you to everyone who indulged in that anyway.
Well, for what it's worth, out of all of the podcasts that were listed, and it looks like there's about 200 of them.
We were fourth at one point.
Yeah, we're sixth now.
Yeah.
Well, we got 114 votes, and the next one up is 145. But the Next Generation Project podcast is 402, and the Video Game podcast is 308, and then you got all the others. So we done all right.
It was worth a stab.
Yes. But anyway, so cool. Well, thank you very much to anyone who voted for that. It was still really nice to see, like, over 100 people suddenly appear out of nowhere to vote for it. It was really cool. Brilliant. So, that's it. Thank you to everyone for writing in. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Elton. I would say thank you to Darren, but he's probably asleep by now. And if I go on the Xbox later on and find he's awake, I'm going to be really pissed.
Should we send him a text now?
No, don't do that. Don't do that. But I am going on Xbox Live shortly. And Darren, if you're on, you're in trouble. Yes, we'll see you all next week for True Grit. So until then, Take care, and we'll see you all soon. Tatty bye.
Bye-bye.
Ta-da.